Hello, hello. A very good afternoon to you all, and a very warm welcome to another live stream with me, 320 Sim Pilot. Good to see you all here. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be taking the Boeing 757-200 from Cardiff down to Menorca. Menorca is a Balearic island that we somehow haven't visited on this channel over the last 2 years. I don't know how we've managed that, but yeah, it's a classic sort of route for us to be doing. This is the Flight Factor 757. We've got Orbex's Cardiff scenery, and we're going to have Windsock Simulations and Aerosoft's Menorca airport. So some nice scenery to come. Looking forward to it. It's been a long time since we flew the 757. It's been, it must be probably 6 months, if not more. It's ridiculous. So it's definitely time we took it back into the air and just reminded ourselves how it works. So jumping into the chat, thank you all for coming along. We're at a slightly different time to usual here, so I appreciate that this is a little bit unusual. So thank you for joining us. And Chickpoint, good to see you here. I hope you're doing well and we don't distract you too much from work. Adrian Burke, good to have you back. I hope you're doing very well as well. And Richard V, thanks very much for coming along and moderating as ever. So many times over the last couple of years, so really appreciate it. Thank you, Richard. And Sean Whitmore, very generous. Sean, a $20 donation. Really appreciate it, Sean. Thank you. Sean says, thank you for the immense amount of content and knowledge you have provided to the simming community. You're very welcome, Sean. Thank you so much. That's really very kind. And yeah, I don't know what to say. That's incredibly generous. So thank you so much. And I hope you're doing very well over in America, Sean, which is somewhere we've been flying a little more recently on the channel, and almost was going to be the route for today. But then I had to get the Britannia livery out. But yeah, the old US Airways one is definitely on the radar for one we're going to be flying soon, I'm sure. But thank you, Sean. Really appreciate it. Very kind. Mav, good to see you. Andres, good to have you here as well. Thanks, Richard, for the route. Hopefully the cloud bot will come to life and the route's on there. We are on VATSIM. I think I've got VATSIM working with X-Plane. We had trouble last time. So I think we solved that. We shall find out as we go through. Sean Duff, good to see you. Sean says, oh my word, that's a flashback right there. Old Britannia livery. Travelled with them on my first holiday abroad from Edinburgh to Alicante. There you go. Classic Britannia sort of route. Yeah, I absolutely love this livery. It's the sort of detailing you don't get it these days. No one's going to pay to have all of these lines painted on an aeroplane. You just have sort of block colours now. So I do like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, so Joe Vaughan, good echo, good to have you back. Martin Scov, I hope you're all doing very well. Yaroslav, good to see you. Ryan, NL, and J.O. We are indeed early today. Scorpion 007 and Reels with Music is also watching at work. Excellent. Hope you're not distracting too many people from their whatever business they are up to. Tim Aerial Photo says, long time simmer, first time viewer, one of my favourite aircraft. Thanks for coming along, Tim. I hope you enjoy it. We have a flight time of around about 2 hours today. And we are going to be starting from cold and dark, but I don't think it'll take us too long to get underway. I'm hoping not. Any questions? Save them for the cruise. We've got 2 hours to talk about things in the cruise, so yeah, plenty of time. I prefer these slightly longer flight time. It's also a lovely day in the UK. When I made that thumbnail, I was expecting to be departing from a cloudy sky and then heading off to somewhere sunny, but that's not happened. It is actually bright blue skies and sunshine. And I've committed to locking myself in my room for 3 hours, but that is absolutely no problem. That's how this channel started after all, doing lots of this with nice weather outside the window. Brian Griffin 787 says, happy St. Patrick's Day to any other Irish in the chat. Good to see Brian Griffin. Thanks for joining us. Are you going to fly the upcoming Concorde for FS 2020? I will see. Yeah, I've seen that that's coming close. I saw it on Discord, so I think someone did tag me in that. Yeah, we shall see as the time gets closer. So, also, I should, of course, jump over to Twitch. Lusledge, good to see you again. They say, hi, it's been a while since I caught a stream live. Hope you are. I'm doing well. I hope you are as well. And Pete S1 and Mr. Banana, good to see you over there. And Nano Eng guy says, happy St. Patrick's Day. Also want to be Boeing Pilot Day. Thanks for joining us. Pete S1 says, interesting Menorca facts number 1. Mahon is the second deepest natural harbour in the world after Pearl Harbor. There you go. Very good. So we'll get. I used to do that a lot. Have Wikipedia facts on the streams, but we've moved on from that a little bit. I say moved on. I've been too lazy to get them sorted. So yeah, thanks for that. Right. So I should see both chats. But yeah, quite windy at Manchester, says Jamlin. Interesting. Yeah, we'll see what the weather's like. It was cavalcade this morning in Exeter, but it's clouding over a bit now, so it's flying for fun. There you go. Right, it's still sunny where I am. Right. yeah, so we're at the gate 9. We are on VATSIM with the new VATSIM client. I'm hoping I've got model matching. I don't think anyone's flying along, so I think we probably won't see any control anyway. So let's admire it just for a second on the outside, a second longer. I think I've said this before, but someone pointed out on a video I saw that you don't see this sort of livery now, partly because you'd never get that onto a web page. It would look terrible with all the thin lines. Really unusual design. Even at the time, I remember noticing it as being strange. So yeah. Right. Afternoon, Kotsky. I hope you're doing well. The dreaded COVID. Looking forward to this. Sorry about that, but hopefully that treats you as well as it can and moves on. Yeah, love the engine ticking over. Sadly, Cardiff did the amazing engine mod for the Rolls-Royce RB211, which I have used on the last time we flew the 757, but I don't have a livery file for it for this livery, so I've only got the Jet 2 one, and I'm going to have to ask you guys about that as to how we can get that sorted. If I assume I need to make a livery, but I don't know how to do that. I've only made one livery, and that was very simple. But there we go. Right, jumping in then, cold and dark as promised. We'll go just to show you. We've loaded up quite a lot, 170 passengers, zero fuel weight, about 80 tons. To give you some context, that zero fuel weight is probably the same as a really heavy 321 NEO sort of flight. So although this 321 NEO is sort of trying to replace the 757 family, you know, they've made the long range version and so on, even the higher landing weights and so on, it's not that heavy. This can go up to sort of 83 tons zero fuel weight. So the 75 is just a bigger machine, and it can take more cargo and so on when you do that. Flying for Fun says, I wish the new Flyby were more adventurous with delivery. Yes, I agree. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, Packet Airways has the Cardo RB211s. Yeah, but they are excellent. So they are a big step up. So it's a shame. I should give it a go. Danny, I'm shocked by the Boeing brand. Yes, it is. It's always strange for us on this channel. Simon C says, when it comes to Concorde, you'd probably better stick to X-Plane as the upcoming Microsoft one won't have much system depth. However, I hope we'll see some 146 action. Yes, I am looking forward to the 146. That is definitely, I'll be flying that for sure. No doubt about it. Right. Okay, anyway, so that is the setup. We've got 12 tons of fuel. We need about 11. I've taken on extra. Stozen says, hello, watching from work. Good to see you, Stozen. I hope you're doing very well. I don't know which chat is running behind. I think Twitch is working. Yes, Jamlin says 75 is my favourite aircraft. Yep, it's up there on my list of favourites for sure. So we're going to go to checklists, amplified, and we're going to power it up. So we know how to do this by now. Battery goes on, standby power goes to auto, landing gear lever down, alternate flap selectors norm, that's all checked, electrical power established. So we have ground power, so I go on, and then I'm going to connect the bus ties, leave the generators off, utility bus, I think that's it. So electrical power established, bus tie switches auto, APU generator on. So turn that on. We're not using the APU yet, but that way I suppose at least it will come on straight away when we want it. So let's start it up. These days APUs don't spend as much time off as they once did because we need them for our ventilation due to COVID. Right, here we go. So checking the fuel, we've got 7.17, so we've got so I haven't loaded this airplane right. That's the wrong amount of fuel. How have I done that? Load. There we go. So that's going to reduce the fuel down. We don't want 17 tons of fuel. We'll be a bit heavy. Right, carrying on with the checklists. APU selector is set to start. Yeah, we've done that. That's fine. It goes red, but we'll skip past that. Sammy, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Watching live for the first time. You're very welcome for the content. Thanks for coming along to say so. Dusk says Twitch is working. I think the stream title isn't. So this is annoying. I don't know why the stream title never seems to work. It never transfers over. Thanks for pointing that out. I set it before the stream. I set it in Streamlabs. So I've done it. I do it twice, and it still doesn't work. It doesn't save it for some reason. Hopefully that worked now. Yeah, Susan was the first time chatting in the Twitch. There you go. So thanks for joining us. Right. There we go. We got that. Listening would like the unused fuel for diesel. Yeah, that is. You see a lot of fuel flying around airports, and it's yeah. You do wonder how long your car would last on that. I bet a long time. Right, the preliminary pre-flight procedure assumes electrical power up is complete. Good, it is. So now we can go to surprise, nav, status display. Oop, check. Verify the only expected messages. Well, we're not familiar with the airplane, but we'll say those are expected. And the quantities. So that is... Oh, there we go. So hydraulics are good. For once, it's actually good. We've had a few low APUs running fine. And the hydraulic pressure is 0. That's as expected. And there isn't oxygen. There it is, 1700. All looking good. Next, CDU. It's time for the CDU. Now, I'm going to gloss over this a little bit. Richard V says, with fuel like that, the police would see you speeding but wouldn't be able to catch you. Yeah, so we're going to go... I thought I updated that. No, it is... oh, I thought I'd done it. Oh, well. Anyway, we're starting at Cardiff. We are on gate 9, which was the gate these used to sit on. Not in database, never seems to be. So we'll take the Cardiff reference position. That'll be close enough. Route from EG... Nope, does it automatically. We're going to LEMH. We're going to take off from runway 30. We're going to be the Britannia 306. Activates. So from 30 direct to 30. I'm not sure why it does that. And then we're going to go to Bravo Hotel Delta. Then to... Oh, let me show you this actually. Filling the screen. Bravo Delta, then I'm surprised about that because I'm sure that's Belfast. Anyway. Maybe there's no actual nav aid there. No, that's just the IATA airport code. To Skezo and then to Din and then to Ren. Now I don't know why we end up with this ridiculous flight plan of just Yep, that's fine. Yeah, we've got this crazy flight plan of just directs. I'm really surprised. So I've never seen this before. I don't know what it was about this route that SimBrief didn't like, but I couldn't find one that used airways that would be valid. We shall see how this works. The magic of this is usually these waypoints don't change as often as the airways. So there we go. Actually, I don't know if that's true. That's just what my impression of it. But there we go. Right. Super pockets. Visto. Ah, this is so great. So easy to do. Gaiac VOR we'll take. Lapro. PPG. Thank you very much, Epox, for the 2 super chat. Epox says, love the vids, my guy. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Very kind of you. And yeah, well, I hope you enjoy this one. Thanks for coming along and saying so. Thanks for the kind donation. PPG. Day 2 Canic. And I hope you're doing very well to Efox Games. Canic. BGR. Yeah, this is mad. It's just all directs. You never see routes like this. It just doesn't happen. Now, let's get the right one. Well, it's not going to be that far south. But it could be... east. It's not west 68. We can check which one it was. It shows you my lack of ability with coordinates. Because it wouldn't be long ago that people would know these coordinates quite routinely. You know, you'd know your home base coordinates and so on. If you're loading up INSs every time you went to work. BGR. It's north 4156. So yeah, it is the closest one. It usually is, but it's worth checking. Right, BGR and Darren. Well, it's not North 23, is it? So we know which one that is. And then Gina. Oh, that goes there. And Efox Games, thank you for the €5 super chat. Efox says, have an amazing day. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Very kind, Efox. And thanks for joining us. And I hope you have an amazing day too. Gina through Verso. Yeah, I'm not sure how fun this ever is, watching me load up an CDU, we should call it. Sargo. Almost there. And then it's going to be Sargo 4 Foxtrot. We'll take the must be 40. But never assume getting the route wrong in a 757 has caused a major accident in the past, so we will check it. So I go 40, 30, 40, 30. Yep, first one. Executes. Good. The magic of the Airbus, something I like about the Airbus is when you type in a waypoint and it does that, where there's several waypoints on the planet, it will make sure that it shows you the distance to it from where you are. So it gives you just some context as to which one's closest, just in case. It doesn't look like any of those SIDs are going to work for us today. No. Flying for fun, no. I hope you're doing well. Grant, thanks for joining us. Yeah, glad you enjoy it. Right, so that's the route. So we've done the ident. Well, let's load up this. We know what we're doing here now by this point. Andy Fox Games, thanks for the €1 super chat. Really appreciate it. You've been very generous, E Fox. Thank you. And I hope you're doing very well. Right. Matthew Presley, good to see you. Matthew Presley is our resident American pilot. Hope you're doing well. And Chief Sim Pilot, fellow streamer. Hope you're doing well, Chief Sim Pilot. Good to see you here. Thanks for joining us. Matthew says 757 in South America, wrong waypoint, let's hitting a mountain. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, it was exactly doing that where they plugged it in and it took them on a 90-degree into the cliff next to them, or the valley. They're in a valley. It's terrible. Yeah, really sad. Right, let's see. After departure, turn left on track. Berryhead for you, then I suppose. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Flying for fun. So Berryhead, that would be the BHD. Yeah, it's Belfast. It's the name of. Well, that's the code for Belfast Airport, but I don't think there's an actual VOR there with BHD. Anyway, I digress. This is turning into a very UK-based discussion. So let's put in the zero fuel weight of 79.6, 12 tons of fuel, reserves. Well, let's see. What are our reserves going to be? I get confused here because this information is sort of true, and then this is just I suppose just for the fuel planning, so it can shout at us if we're running out. So reserves, I imagine, is 1.4 plus 1.9, so 2.9, 3.3. At 3.3, we lose our alternate anyway. We're going to cruise at 370, costed X nice and high at 103. Takeoff, flaps. I'm going to go. Why not? Can we do 10? No such thing as 10 on this. Let's go 15. I feel like this is a short enough runway to warrant 15. CG is 33. Pretty aft. So trim 2.9. I'll write that down. Not going to do any shifts. And then there is a way to do this. Reference speeds on. Thank you. We'll take those speeds. VR 135. Right. The crew are complaining. We're all familiar with that by now.
Sir, we are freezing back there.
Freezing?
Do something.
What's the cabin temperature? Can we see the cabin temperature? 14. They'll be alright at 14. To be honest, 14 on a sunny day like this, I bet you wouldn't need any hot air to be plugged into this airplane, because obviously we will for ventilation, but yeah, it would soon heat up with the sun on it and 170 people crammed in there. So I think that's the pre-flight. So departure, arrival. We're taking off from 30 and we're going out, but there's no actual way to do that. So let us just check our route. If we take this to map, zoom out a bit, and we're going to take off from runway 30. I suppose it doesn't matter how much I zoom out. Because effectively we take off and then we're going to make a left turn to PhD. Thanks so much to Sawaza Pikula for the 35 New Zealand dollars. Very much appreciate it. I hope you're doing well down in New Zealand. Lovely, lovely part of the world. And thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. That's a very generous donation. I hope you're doing very well. Thanks for joining us today. Yeah, the camera crew don't ask very nicely on this add-on. Kadeko says, I love the 757. It's my staple British package holiday from being young, but the cockpit looks so confusing and difficult. There's some things about it, but it's really not. It's quite nice. It's better than the 737. I would say that. I find this one more manageable. Ah, yes, I do have them assigned. Ah, isn't that good? Right, leave those off. Let's just start fiddling with things. So that's the performance done as well. We haven't got a departure. We'll do the arrival when we go. We've done the weights. We've done the initial reference. I think it's all done. So I'm going to say we've done that, done that, done that, done that, done that. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah. And V speeds. So now, are they set? 129, 135, 129, 135. Yeah, we have. Yep. Does it automatically. Pretty good. Good. That's the route done. Let's carry on with this then. And thank you again to Soasa for that very, very generous donation. I hope you're doing very well. And yeah, good to see you. And yeah, it must be late evening or early morning in New Zealand. Or very, very late night. So as I says, thanks for always sharing your knowledge. Learned a lot from you. You're very welcome. Thank you again for that donation. Really kind. Danjay Shresh, good to see you. Thanks for coming along. Right. Where are we? Danny Adams says that was AA flight 965. There you go. I'm not sure. I don't remember the actual flight number of that incident with the 757. Okay. Yeah, list them in. You haven't heard the crew complaints because of the fact that you're probably flying it better than I am. There we go. It's 3:21 a.m. in New Zealand, says VTM Kiwi Game. Excellent. Well done. That's pretty hardcore. Excellent. Right. Well, we'll get underway soon, I promise. So, now we're on to pre-flight controlling, which is good. Yaw damper switches. So this is overhead panel time. So they're complaining about the cold. We've got the APU running. Let's give them some APU air. Open up the valve. There we go. And set the pack temperatures to auto. Let me know again how the audio is, because apparently the temperature is dropping, 13.7, so that will warm up soon. Right, we're going to come up here. We're going to turn on the yaw damper switches. We're going to put the EEC switches to on. This bit I always get wrong, so let's do this right. We turn on the engine pumps, not the electric hydraulic pumps. We don't want those yet. Generator control switches need to go on. Oh, what is going on here? Generator control switch is on. That's these two. So they're now on. So when the engines start up, the generators will take over. APU selector we've done. Runway turn off switches to off. They are down here. Runway turn off are off. Emergency light switch guarded. So we need to arm the emergency lights for the passengers. Should have done that before they got on, really. Passenger oxygen light check. Passenger oxygen on light check. No, we shouldn't have done that. That's just dumped all the masks, I imagine. Verify extinguished, yeah. Okay, it's extinguished now. Can we wander into the cabin and check that they aren't all down? Oh no, we need to unlock that, don't we? Good. The mask didn't come down without that poor planning. Oh dear, now we're in trouble again.
Sir, it is very cold in the cabin. The passengers are unhappy.
Well, it's warming up, I think. We'll put on all of the air. That might help it out. Maybe it needed that. Good. Anyway, right. Yeah, pretty scary if the mask dropped before you've even left the gate, I imagine. Yeah, it'd probably be all right. Now, we do not want to turn on the ram air turbine by accident. That would be a disaster. Engine start just to system 1. Engine start switches can be off. Engine limiter buttons on. Engine start selectors. Oh, it says auto. Really? I don't remember doing that before. Engine start selectors to auto. And then we switch them to ground later, I suppose. Oh well. This is all good. It seems to be happy with the fuel pumps, which need to be off for now. We've got 12 tons of fuel as we wanted. We're slowly burning it. Anti-ice can be off. Wipers off. Let's put on the position lights. And that'll be it. These lights all off. And let's light up the panel lights. Put that to auto. Cabin pressurization. Landing altitude. I think it's pretty much at sea level. So we'll set that now. And we'll put it into auto mode. We certainly don't want to be controlling that ourselves. And we'll put the auto rate to the selector. Turn these signs on. Window heat on. Good. Temperature's coming up to 18. Air is all looking good. So I think we're in a good place now. Yeah, we're going to leave those there. Yep. Engine bleed air should be on, it says. Maybe those valves are needed for starting, which would make sense. Right, so now it's time to come to the mode control panel, as they call it, with these terrible little switches. Those can go on. We're going to put the VRD meter auto, which it is. We're going to test the oxygen. Will that be down there? We have used that once. There we go. Test it. Oxygen pressure we did already check. Flight instruments. Yes, yes, yes. I'm clicking through so much of this because there's a lot that we have already done. Computer goes to auto in the middle. Don't know why it's not sat there automatically on its own. 7576 Adrian are, yeah, essentially the same. They're the same type rating. Tonight, terrain, yeah, that's all as we want it really, so there's no point in me spending too much time on that. Good. Pre-flight not controlling. Yeah, this is all good stuff. So we're going to go to the normal checklist. So oxygen's tested, pressurization mode selector is auto, flight instruments test, parking brake is on, fuel to cut off, gear pins removed. Next is before start. I just use that other non-controlling thing to help us get ready. So what I want to do now is just set up for our departure. So we need the weather. It's coming up to our pushback time, past. We're doing all right here. So 1033 QNH. Not that. That's the red out. Sorry, that's the MDA. 1033. 1033. Reading about 200 feet, which is right for Cardiff. 10. You can just about see that. I'm struggling. 3. 3. Good. So that is all correct. We've got the takeoff sector. We're going to go with just toga. Engine shutdown. Hydraulic. Yeah, that all looks as expected. It's got an FMC message, but that's fine. And a brake source message. That's probably from the hydraulic issues. In fact, we're not powered up yet. So I'm going to leave that en route. That there. I think we're pretty much done with that. So what I want to find is, does anyone know the frequency of the BHD? I suppose it would tune automatically, and we can just do direct in here. Is it 11205? I hope so. PTS says, dump the mask equals very grumpy engineer. Yes, the engineers would not appreciate that. Not at all. Thank you again to Swaza for the very kind donation. Right. Just jumping into the chat. Matthew Presley says, multi-aircraft type ratings, not good. Not a fan. There you go. 11205. Perfect. So it has worked, which is great. You can click the screw on the right side to set the co-pilots. Ah, yes, that's right. If we do that one, it sends it across. Thanks very much, Chamberlain. I forgot all about that. So 11205, thank you for that. That's what I'd hoped. We are going to have, let's set up our little EFIS control. I'm going to have terrain on. There's no weather out there. It's a lovely day. Go to map, 40-mile range, nav aids and airports. Seems sensible. There we go. Perfect. So we're going to take off and just make a left turn after 1,000 feet around. So push back and head out to Alpha 1 for runway 30. I don't think we've departed from 30 in Cardiff. We've done a few flights from Cardiff. Now let's get over to the APU. So APU generator on. External power gone. Okay. Let's get rid of the GPU. Let's get rid of everything actually. Close all the doors. Let's get better pushback.
Ground to cockpit. Please show me where you want to go.
I don't know. I don't want any of that. Oh.
Ground
How do I clear
cockpit.
that one?
Please show me where you want to go.
I can't. Delete. There we go. So let's push back onto the main apron as it's so quiet. I think last time it was very busy. So we'll do something like that. Seemed reasonable to me.
Ground to cockpit.
So they're going to do that.
Driving
So
up.
for a brief, we're going to push back. We're going to taxi out. We'll do 2 engines, short taxi down Alpha 1 holding point just before the turn. Something to be aware of before heading out. There's no real terrain issues or threats after that once we get underway. If we look at just any of the random charts, we can see the MSAs Oh, we're going the other way, but 2,700. So we'll climb to 3,000 feet. We'll be visual as we do it, but we'll be making a left turn to BHD direct and then heading on from there. Reckon it's further north of us. I see. Then Jay says, did you get the pushback toolbar update from Microsoft Flight Simulator? It has pre-planning now. I will have to try that out. I have not tried that. It's Common Sense Gaming. Hello to you. Thanks for joining us. Flying for Fun says, do you ever ident navigate in the Airbus or does it do them for you? So to ident navigate in the Airbus, it just appears on the screen. So it will label the 3-letter code that it decodes from the radio aid. It's very good. Flap. Let me try and remember. 15 degrees for takeoff. Toga takeoff, just for the fun of it. I think I need to set something on here. No, it just says takeoff, so that should have worked. Yeah, so flap 20. I can't think much else to say about that. I struggle with briefings in the 757 because I don't really know what I'm doing with it. We need to do need to remember to set the trim. But yeah, straight out, left turn, BHD, on we go. 37,000 feet, low terrain, nice weather. Fuel, we got plenty for the taxi. We got an extra ton. Let's get rid of that. Oh, that's a fancy tug.
Release parking brake.
Just get rid of that last ground vehicle. There we go, the waste unit. So yeah, so I don't know what else to say. I think we'll just see how it goes. See how it goes. So, checklist. Fuel, we've got station signs are on. Windows are locked. MCP, that's what we haven't done. MCP. So, V2 141 is set. I suppose we can arm the auto thrust now. Heading, we're going off runway 30, so we'll put 30. We'll climb to our favourite in the UK when we're not sure of 6,000 feet. Auto bank angle. There's too many buttons up here, too many buttons, but there we go. Auto bank angle is set. We're going to do it in normal sort of flight level change when we get going, and that can be auto tuned as well. Ah, that's funny. I wonder why it won't work. Ah, because this one hasn't really woken up. Strange. Does anyone know why that might be? Oh well, we won't worry too much. It's probably always been like that. So MCP is set. Takeoff thrust check. Takeoff speeds check. CDU. Rudder and aileron trim. Taxi briefing. Flight deck door. Red anti-collision. So that is going on. We are ready for pushback. Next is before taxi. Let's go. At 33. I think I planned on 40, so that's not bad. Right, I do need to transmit. Let's see if I've got... That's in working. 1228. Oh, and it doesn't say receiving. How do I set receiving? There we go. Cardiff, traffic, Britannia 306, pushing back from stand 9 onto taxiway Alpha. Right. Where's the clock in here? I want to start the clock. It's a new thing I'm going to make sure I do in simulators. It's something we always do. Change the display mode for that side, EFIS. Ah, is it because it's set to VOR? Yep, there we go. Very good. Thank you. Right, brakes released.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Where's the clock? There it is. Oh, we'll just leave that running, I suppose. Right, I think this is looking good. Quite a long pushback. Maybe it won't start immediately. Yeah, there are some strange... The voices... Are you hearing the voices in the cabin and so on? They do make some nice nice noises. It does confuse me when I'm wearing headphones. I think someone's in the house. We are indeed on VATSIM Bridge 2. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us. If I've missed any questions, of course, please do bring them up again once we are underway. Danny says, beautiful plane. Don't think I've ever flown on one. Just 7378. Oh, that's a shame. Yeah, 75 would have been the classic holiday aircraft for a lot of people of my generation, I suppose. Now, But yeah, as we were saying, with a 80-something ton zero fuel weight, putting it at over 100-ton takeoff weight, it is still a different beast to the 321 and the long-range 321s. This is a true Atlantic crossing airplane without any sort of difficulty. We are on VATSIM, it's Common Sense Gaming. So let's start up then. So I'm going to start engine 2. We're going to go to grounds. I'm going to go to engine. And then we're going to wait till the N3 has increased enough to this little marker. Flying for fun says, I flew on a Thompson 75 a few years ago and the aircon was broken in 40-degree Cyprus. Yeah, that sounds like a fun day out. So it won't manage that because we need to turn off the packs. I did know this, and yet it failed. So I think we turn... No, we need the isolation valve on, but we turn off these. That will give it more pressure. It's interestingly, when you do a manual start on the Airbus, and then we'll start number 2. There it goes. Hopefully. Not seeing any fuel flow, but it's not lighting up either.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
It is accelerating. Oh. Let's give it some fuel. There's the fuel flow. Oh dear. That was not a good start. Right, parking brake is set for the ground crew.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Yeah, so when you do a manual start on the Airbus, you might find that you can't get enough acceleration in the engine, so you have to turn off some systems. You have to actually shed electrical things as well, I think. So it's quite interesting. Yeah. Anyway, that's number 2 started. Number 1. We'll turn on all the pumps. Don't think we have any fuel in the center tank. In fact, I can see no fuel in the center tank, so I'll leave those off. That little marker there. I like these liquid crystal displays, very old school, but quite clear. Pete S says, with the 757 holiday charters, allowed us poor people to turn left upon entering. There you go, yes. Yeah, there was not a first class cabin. Right, over 32, so let's go to run.
Toliss disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the left. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
Still just us here. Interesting how that aileron's still drooping and this one looks like it's working. So I assume one aileron's run off a different hydraulic system. And then when this engine spools up, there it goes, getting hydraulic pressure now. Excellent. Just excellent modelling on this. Love it. Always in the way, that bar. But there's the hand signal. Very important we get that. There they go. Okay. Why is brake source an issue? To be resolved. Oh, the hydraulics. Yeah, we haven't done the hydraulics properly. Okay, so the engines have started. I feel like these should now come on, but we should find out. There probably is a flow for that. Right, anti-ice, no. Isolation switch off. That's that one. Recall checked. Auto brake to RTO. Ground equipment clear. Taxi. Right, yeah, that's not helping us. Let's turn on these electric pumps. And that will pressurize the hydraulics fully. Any more warning lights? We might as well just deal with those now. Definitely got the generators online, so I think we can turn off the APU and the APU gen. Going to put the turn off lights on for the taxi. Trying to turn on as many lights as I can. Okay, and we're going to set our flaps to, we went with 15. And we're going to set the trim, which is just hidden down here, to 2.9. Quite far forwards, quite an aft CG. There you go, VT. Yeah, we managed to get VATSIM working this time. We have struggled for a while. Thanks for those subscriptions to It's Common Sense, Bambo, and RJG. Cardiff traffic. Britannia 306 taxiing holding point Alpha, runway 30. Right. Brakes released. Oh yeah, AP gen off is fine, but we want the packs back on. Easy enough power for packs on takeoff. AP bleed off. Okay. So let's see. Oh, right. I'm having trouble with my stick. My TC8 again. Let's do a bit of flight controls. Love it. I did a little bit of flying with this just yesterday in preparation, and I just forgot how nicely it handled. Just excellent. Stand by 1 second. It's Common Sense Gaming. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Sorry about that. I just had to sort something out here. I think it's resolved. Right, so we've done a bit of flight controls. What else do we need to check in here? Done the flaps, done the trim. Done the auto brake to RTO. Ground equipment clear, taxiway we've done. Take a briefing reviewed, packs auto, flaps are set, stabilizer trim set, flight controls checked, cabin secured, lights go off, and then the rest is normal flying stuff. Great. Yes, we made it back to save it from rolling into a ditch. Indeed. The sim sounds too quiet. Hopefully that's a bit better. Let me know how that feels. No worries, 52. If you manage to join, you manage to join. Love this all-back scenery. Very nice. Okay. So, I think it's 80 knots where I think we do a little bit of forward yoke, and then 80 knots we release that in the Boeings. I know they do an 80 knot cool. Otherwise, pitching up to 15 degrees would probably still give us plenty of extra speed. Let me just move the alert box slightly back to where it normally was. Aviation Forever, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Hopefully those sounds are a bit better. Laura B, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Laura B says, can't stay long today, just dropping by real quick. No problem, it's an unusual time. I appreciate incredibly inconvenient for most people. So thanks for stopping by. Now, I have a funny feeling they do this as well. Clear that screen, so if something pops up, if there's a problem. I think maybe that's a 7.3 thing, not a 7.5 thing. But anyway, that's what I've done. Right, let's go. Cardiff traffic, Britannia 306, taking off runway 30, departing to the west. Clear on approach, clear on the runway. All the lights can come on. These apparently go off at this point. Oh, the hardest click spot in all of Flight Simulation land. This is where everyone gets excited. This is where it's really happening. You're really going on holiday. Don't forget the toga underneath FD switch, Emily says. Thanks very much. Yeah, great point. We are still on the taxiway, that's good. Such a beast. Size of this aeroplane. Right, is everybody ready? I think they should be. So, let's go for it. Take off. Bit of forward pressure. Stabilise the engines. Hit the toga buttons. There we go. So we got EPR, toga, or takeoff, FD. I'll put the thrust levers all the way forwards just in case. Thrust is set. $80 knots. Oh, thinking too much on the speed. There's thrust hold. I have had it suddenly slow down here before. Let's hope it doesn't do that. V1 rotates. Positive climb. Gear up. I'm going to go for 15. Just roaring away. Such a great flying machine. Look at that. The only noise I don't like on this flight factor is the flyby noise. It just sounds terrible compared to everything else. Right. What I want to do now is, I think we're going to go LNAV VNAV, and it should take us to BHD. EPR VNAV speed LNAV, lower the nose. It does a very aggressive level acceleration, which I don't think is realistic unless that was how they originally made. This is St. Athan, which is a storage airport. You'll see lots of airplanes from the pandemic would have ended up there, I think. Because with this level acceleration, it just rockets the speed up. Ridiculous. It aims for, I'm hoping, about 250. Looks like just under maybe 230. Autopilot commands. Gear is up and off. Flaps should be up. Yeah, there they go. And to stop it making an absolute mess, let's go direct to BHD. Executes. And we're underway. Simple as that. So fast. Look at that. Leaving Cardiff behind. Yeah, you can see the scenery included with the Orbex there. Very nice. Right. 37,000 feet, please. Oh, not 40, 37. There it goes. Standards. 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 After takeoff, packs, auto landing gear out, flaps up, altimeter set. Next is the descent. That's that. Camera crew wants to be let out. Yeah, I'm not sure what they're.
I have nothing to say, sir.
I'm not sure what they were complaining about at that point. But there we go. Yeah, I like the noise in the cockpit. I think that sort of roar sounds similar to the Airbus IE engines, that sort of buzzsaw sounds, but just for some reason they haven't done anything different on the external sound, so I think that they could be better considering how good it sounds otherwise. There we go, now they are upset again.
Sir, I think you might have forgotten about the cabin safety routine.
Oh yes. There we go. Now look at that PA.
Our aircraft continues to climb. We would like to remind you that
Top of climb coming in just, what's that, 50 miles?
for your safety,
3,000 feet per minute rate of climb at 240 knots. Very nice. Yeah.
damaging what was connected to smoke detectors is strictly prohibited. On the overhead panel, you will
Yeah,
find
indeed,
a
this is
personal
Orbex scenery.
magnetic air conditioner and a flight attendant button.
In Boeing's, with the motorised throttles, it would advance the thrust lever itself. Yes, so that would be a nice... I don't know if anyone's going to make one, but imagine if they made hardware. So I'm using the Thrustmaster TCA. Imagine if you had hardware that represented these throttles, or Boeing throttles, so they moved. You know, we have force feedback steering wheels for racing games and so on, so surely that would be possible. Maybe there's a $1 million idea. Ben, the blogger, says, hey, safe guys, you've been helping me on mastering the Toliss. Excellent, I'm glad you've been enjoying them, Ben. I'm glad to hear the Toliss videos are still getting used as well, still useful. Blueberry King, good to see you. I hope you're doing very well. Thanks for joining us. Blueberry King's looking forward to the Balearic sun. Yeah, we were saying it's unusually very sunny here in the UK as well, so didn't need to head all the way for a 2-hour flight, but we will. There we go. Now we're coming up to 300 knots. That's more of a normal acceleration, you know, 1,000 feet per minute, whilst lowering the nose, not level. Not level. So it's Peculius super chatted another $9 New Zealand dollars. Thanks so much. So as it says, too good, bro. Enjoy the rest of your flight. Hope to see you fly in New Zealand sometime. I'll definitely be noticing. Oh, good night. Good night to you. Thanks for staying up so late, and thanks for your very, very generous donations. So it's certainly good to see you here this time. I hope to see you again soon. The New Zealand approaches often feature RNAVs, so there's a reason we haven't done that yet, which is I want to go to New Zealand with an aircraft that has proper VNAV, so we can fly those approaches appropriately, and ideally that would be an Airbus. So we are currently on hold for that, but I'm certainly going to be flying some of those approaches. They look stunning. And here's the first officer. Hello. No, she doesn't feel the need to say hello when she's already got your attention. 2 AM in Australia, says Ranjoy. Yeah, you guys are doing very well to be up at this time. Arjun says, thanks for your flaps video. I asked about it on the stream before. I appreciate the big explanation. You're very welcome. Yeah, I like the that was quite fun doing the flap video. So I've done a video recently on the channel. I meant to put it in Discord. I will do that. I'm terribly sorry I haven't. But yeah, I've done a video talking about Flap 3 and when we use it and why we use it, specifically for takeoff and landing. Listerman says, FO feline officer. Yes, very good. Very good. Someone has just appeared on the ground at Cardiff for their way to Mahon also. Excellent. Yeah, MH being Mahon, which is the airport we are heading to on Menorca. Let's see, I'm trying out a new, I've got a VAT scope now, which I think a lot of you recommended. We're well on our way now. Very cool. Right, so here we go. How do I get rid of this box? I've got a hotkey assigned to it. But I don't want it appearing. I managed to turn it off before. This is the new X-Pilot version 2 beta. Generally just uses Volanta, okay. Maybe I must look into Volanta. Brian says, many thanks for telling me about Orbex. I took a look, but this is too much for my computer study. Ah, that's a shame, yeah. Orbex stuff is very, very computer intensive. Ethan Master says, should be possible as an application integrator, should be able to pick the position of the throttles in the sim. We should then be able to pass that information to an Arduino to activate a servo. Make the levers move. Yeah, that would be cool, eh? Because the big thing Boeing pilots like is that you can override these. Well, I can't in my sim, but you can override them so you can push them one way or the other, even with auto thrust engaged, which you cannot do on the Airbus. George Murray, thanks for subscribing. Yeah, the fumes issues, piano learner, there's been a lot of aircraft have been subject to conversations about that. Yeah, it's an interesting one. not yet resolved, I think. Skywalker says, I was wondering what route you took into becoming an airline pilot. I'm soon hopefully going to have my flight training aptitude test that I was wondering. Yeah, so I don't have to be too specific, but there are... I'm in the UK, so first it depends which country you're in. But oh yeah, we can turn off some lights, can't we? We don't need the landing lights anymore. We will have the logo lights. And I think we can let the passengers go. There we go. Any more PAs? Next one's level off. Yeah, so the ways that people tend to do it are either in the UK you'll do a full course all at once, full time, called an integrated course, or an alternative would be to do a part-time course whilst you're also working, called modular. So those are two of the options for doing it in the UK, and neither is better or worse, it depends on your circumstances. And after that you try and get your first job, or if you're lucky you can get into a cadet scheme and become an airline pilot by getting signed up by an airline before you finish flight school, or maybe even before you start, which is the best case scenario. If you have an airline that says, yeah, we'll give you a job before you even start training. And the ultimate dream scenario is finding an airline that will pay for your training, which they should, frankly, but they don't. So those are the ways, and yeah, they're all good really, and you've got to just choose a flight school that you like and one that suits you. But it is a big commitment, huge amount of money, so having a plan, or an airline especially, is ideal if you can. But some airlines go to flight schools whilst you're training, especially integrated flight schools. So when you're doing the full course at one school, they tend to that can sometimes have the advantage of airlines go to that school and say, I want 20 pilots, can you just sign up some cadets to join my airline after they're finished, because I know what the training is like here. So that does occasionally happen. That would be one thing in the pro column for integrated. Thanks for those subscriptions. Lust Jej says, I'm not sure if it's the same in the UK, but here everything is covered in a small layer of Sahara dust today. Would weather like that cause any problems for airplanes? Very good question. So that Sahara dust was in the UK yesterday, and we had sort of a very overcast sky, and then suddenly it went very orangey, and then all the cars got covered in sort of orangey soot dust. No, that doesn't cause a problem for airplanes. So the volcanic ash is different. Volcanic ash is incredibly hard and gets melted down into the engines and all sorts of other problems. Normal just dust and sand in the air, no, we can fly through dust storms and so on. Now we don't want to, and there are extreme conditions obviously where we will need to avoid it because of the risk of blocking up pitos and so on. But in general, just like the sort of the orangey sky you've probably seen with the Sahara dust, no, rarely causes an issue. Sometimes you might smell it actually. It can, because of the way the air gets into the airplane through the engines, reaches a higher temperature and then is cooled down again. Sometimes it creates a funny smell. But yeah. Mr. Bernard said, I'd like 20 pilots and a large coach to go, please. Airlines. Exactly, yeah, that's what they do, because they don't want to... Airlines are terrified of having too many pilots. They see pilots as an expense, a very big expense. So they want to make sure they have the right number only and not a single pilot more. So what they do is they try and have some cadet schemes running to give them a guaranteed supply of pilots. So cadets take 2 years to train, but they often get that wrong. So then they'll go to the schools and say, right, I need 20 cadets. Now that would be in the good times. Obviously right now we're not in the good times, so it's hard to say if that's going on or not. But when things are going well, that would be quite common. That's an interesting question, though. Yeah, good question. You're welcome, Skywalker. Simone C says, I'm just doing some CRJ 1000 hops around the Balearic Islands, and I can say the weather in the UK is much better. Oh no! Disaster. Oh well, I'm sure there's somebody going on holiday to the Balearics at the moment, and maybe it's actually a bit early in the year for that. Aerosoft says, question, I've looked through a couple of QRHs for 320. I haven't found a checklist for single engine failure or single hydraulic system failure in neither of them. Are those supposed to be done using ECAM checklist? Yep, pretty much that's it. So engine failures aren't memory items on the 320 family like they probably would be on a Boeing. They certainly were on the dash. So on the dash we used to have a series of items. It was like thrust lever, fuel cutoff, prop feather, all of this stuff. On the Airbus, you read it off the ECAM. Yeah, that's what it's there for. The cure rate is still quite big on the 320. I think it's shrunk a lot for the new aircraft 380, 350. HK's Flight Simulation says, how do you find the 757? I find it excellent. Yeah, this is just a really good add-on. I really like it. Just a shame I haven't got Carter's fantastic engine mod on this one. Alas. You're welcome, stuff. ETM Kiwi Gaming says, definitely try Queenstown approach in New Zealand when able. Sort of pilot's view of a real approach, and it's definitely backbenching stuff, flying so close to the mountains with a sea of clouds, so stunning. Yeah, it looks stunning. No, Queenstown is on the list, definitely, once we get some proper VNAV and Microsoft Flight Simulator working for us. I have not got the FT Sim sound pack for this aircraft. Maybe I should do that, because I do keep flying it. Although it's been a long time. I can't believe how long it's been since we streamed it. It's unreal. Unreal. Gemini says in X-Pilot settings. So what I was talking about, for any of you who were here earlier, I want to make sure that the window doesn't appear on screen like this. I don't like it popping up on the stream. I managed to turn it off in my previous version of X-Pilot, but that's all been disconnected and I had to swap to the new version, and now it appears whenever I get a notification. So if anyone figures out how to stop that happening, I will be very much appreciating it. So I can't see it in settings. There is a keep X-Pilot window visible, but that doesn't seem to change anything. No, that's to do with the actual X-Pilot. Yeah. Danny says, is it true training can cost low six figures? I want to learn, but I couldn't afford to invest that much in case of that. So, sadly, yeah, it is. It can cost six figures. Yeah. It wasn't when I did it, but that was, you know, over a decade ago now. Yeah, it's outrageous, and it's a shame because it means there's people who would otherwise be excellent at it who don't see that opportunity through no fault of their own. So yeah, I'm not pleased at the way things have gone with that side of things. But there are airlines sometimes try, but then, you know, something like COVID happens and then they stop trying because they don't need pilots anymore. Tom says Alt F4 might work. Oh dear. Well, we have opened doors before. I think it was on the 7.5 we did that actually. Yeah. We're almost there then. Just over 1,000 feet to go. Arrival time we are currently using live time, so in an hour and a half. Not bad. Half an hour climb, 2 hour flight time, makes sense. Tom says 6 figures now, but modular training sometimes a bit cheaper, and you can spread the cost to work for you. Yeah, indeed. That's the. So I said about the pro of integrated, i.e. doing it all at once in a flight school. The pro being airlines might come and just get pilots. There's our altitude alert. We are getting close. But the con would be it's very expensive. It's more expensive. So modular, if you get it right, it can be cheaper, and then you can spread it out and do it whilst doing other things. Downside being you might miss out on some other opportunities that you could have got, but it's a real gamble either way. Yeah, 30 minutes we've been running since Pushback, not bad. Flying for Fun says, my training is modular, but I'm doing it pretty much full time. I got it for about £60,000. There you go. Thanks, Flying for Fun. Interesting. Yeah, quite a difference. You then have to add on, of course, a type rating is the downside. A lot of airlines will charge for type ratings. That was starting to go away, but I think it's back now. We shall see. We shall see. But there's plenty of other jobs out there aside. Well, I say plenty. There are other jobs aside from airline flying. I'm using default weather, and injector is all default. Yeah, just everything default. I'm terrible with the weather. Yeah, Danny, the government might do a scheme. Speed being a path. There we go. Into the cruise. Yeah, I hope so. I hope to see airlines pay for it, really, if they're going to make record profits like they were in 2019. Hopefully they can start some cadet schemes up again. But we need the industry to recover first, of course, before we'll ever expect to see anything like that happening. Boeing ain't going to plenty of jobs, yeah, indeed. No, there's not plenty of jobs, but there are other jobs. Right. So I want to have a look at the fuel. So here, is there a fuel use number anywhere? It's just a fuel flow. Total 9.7. So obviously we can determine that we've burnt 2.3 tons to get up to here, which is not bad. Fuel's at -23 already, pretty cold. Cabin altitude 7,000 feet. This plane can go quite high. What's the ceiling of the 757? Someone will know that, I'm sure. But that's pretty good. That's 7,000 feet, slightly lower. Airbus at this altitude would probably be nearer to 8,000 feet. So I'm imagining we can go to 41,000, something like that. Kadeko says, I was looking into modular a few years ago. I think by the time I can save up for all of that, though, it'd be too late. I'm now 30, settled for a career as a paramedic. There you go, fantastic. Yeah, see, they're not popping up. Yeah, what a career. I don't know how paramedics do it. Amazing work. So, yeah. Yeah, the age thing comes up a lot as well. People are concerned about age. If you finish training at 35, 40, yeah, that's still 20 years. Not many airlines expect you to stay for more than 20 years anyway. There's plenty of airlines that don't have their pilots stay longer than a few years. So I would write it off, but likewise, it's a huge financial decision. So it's there are plenty of reasons it's not suitable for people as well, which I totally get. There we go. Good. We are storming along. 0.82. What a machine. Another reason, we got these 321s flying across the Atlantic, but they also don't go along at 0.82. They go along at yes. They go along at 7.6, 7.7, maybe 7.8. They could do 7.9, but rare. Probably not very efficient for the whole cruise, whereas this thing is just a quicker airplane. MK says 40 is absolutely not too late, but just be careful with the money side. There you go. Yeah. Adrian says try the X-Pilot settings via the in-sim plugin top menu to disable the box. Aha! Right, there you go. You've solved it. Yeah. I'm not going to fiddle with that now, but thank you very much. That is what I need to do. I totally forgot that menu existed. I'm also hoping my CSL package, the Bluebell package, has stayed because I uninstalled the old X-Pilot and put the new one in, but I'm hoping because I put that all into my X-Plane folder that it just finds it again. Fingers crossed. But thanks, Adrian. Yeah, very good. Tom says, what do you think of the FAA 1,500 hours rule? I get it, but I understand it is now causing some problems for American airlines looking for pilots. Excuse me. So, what do I think of it? I'm not convinced getting airline pilots to fly around in German aviation for 1,500 hours makes any appreciable difference to their abilities on a multi-crew airline. Now, obviously, other people and the regulators are convinced, so I'm sure they have a lot of evidence and reasoning for it. But in Europe, we don't have that 1,500 hour rule, and I think that's fine. I think we would see there would be a safety trend to highlight why it's not acceptable, and we don't see that. So I think they're just it's a different game. It's a totally different game. It's like driving your car versus driving a articulated lorry. That's a bit of a glib comparison, but what I mean by that is it's just not really comparable. I can drive a car, I can't drive an articulated lorry, or certainly me driving my car isn't really helping. Yeah, I'm taking it on the road and doing it in the same sort of area, but I'm not doing the same thing. It's a different job, and multi-crew stuff is so different to single pilot. It's a skill in its own right, being able to work as a team on a flight deck. And it's what the focus has been on in training for the last few years now, and we've seen the change in training to focus on our interactions with the automatics and each other, as opposed to just, can you sit there on your own and come to a decision. Yeah, I'm not convinced it makes a huge amount of difference. But, I would say that because I'm in Europe, so... Listerman says you still have to tell it where the folder is in the plugin settings in game. Okay, right. I've got to fiddle with that menu. I'll do that another time. Cool. Just give me 1 second, actually. Maybe we can do it now. Give me 1 second. Excellent. Right, I think we've got that solved. Yeah, there was a little option in there for removing the window pop-up on messages, and we've also got the CSL enabled. So the CSL was thankfully still enabled. I totally forgot that was there. Richie Ray's, good to see you. Richie says, when's the last time a passenger landed a commercial? I don't know if that's ever happened. Maybe I did watch a film recently called Executive Decision, and in that yes, features David Suchet as the the main villain, and it's I don't know how many of you've seen it. It's where they decide to rescue a hijacked aircraft by attaching a stealth fighter underneath it and then gaining access through the avionics bay. But yeah, that's probably the last time I saw that happen. Paul says, can't wait for the 757 coming out on Microsoft Flight Simulator. No, me either. Do we have an ETA on that? Or the PMDG? It must be Boeing time in Microsoft Flight Simulator land, surely. Agent Burke says, as far as I know, it's never happened with a two-person cockpit crew, only smaller one pilot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's two crews, so unlikely. There is a minimum flight hour requirement in Europe, James. There is. It's but it's down low. It's somewhere in the 200 hours mark. It's not much at all. The reason for that is, in flight training in Europe, you complete your training and then you do your hour building in your single engine piston aircraft, and then you sort of move on from that and you start doing your multi-crew and your jet orientation stuff, and then you go and do your type rating. So the generally considered the hardest part of the traditional route for training in Europe is the multi-engine instrument rating commercial pilot part, CPL-IR, commercial pilot's license instrument rating, multi-engine. That's where you have to fly around in a multi-engine aircraft and do raw data holds and procedures, all within a certain tolerance, whilst also dealing with the winds and the flight planning. And it sounds simple, it's something when you go on to fly airliners, you do it every day. You fly around in IFR airspace, Class A airspace, you name it, flying around to ridiculous tolerances. I wouldn't expect to go more than 100 feet either way on a whole 4-hour flight. But of course, I'm using the autopilot. I'm not being bounced around in turbulence, or if I am, I'm letting the autopilot take the strain. And I'm not having to do flight planning in the same way, whereas when you're doing it for that test, the reason that test is so hard is you've got to get so many things right. You've got to plan your flight, plan your drift angles. The same for the holds. You've got to adjust all the downwind leg for the current drift, and you don't have an inertial navigation system, an INS, or you don't have the IRSs up here, inertial reference system. You've got just you and an aeroplane, and then you've got to use the predicted winds and calculate them and then correct if they were wrong. It's crazy. Yeah, it's very hard, very challenging. So you do that, and then you move on to sort of your jets, and then you sort of forget about the piston engine stuff and move on to trying to integrate into an airline environment, which, like I say, is just so different. Ethan Master says Concord on the 30th of March, which I'm looking forward to, and then 146 also coming. Yeah, 146 we are definitely can't wait to fly that. Richie Ray says, is 1500 hours in Microsoft Flight Simulator going to be acceptable? Hopefully. Hopefully. You know, the thing is, if you sit here and compare this to flying around GA in a simulator, you know, they're just two totally different things. People who fly airliners in flight sims often aren't the same people who fly general aviation. They're just so different. So why all that general aviation time is required to become an airline pilot, yeah. Right, I'm going to go to two-par. That would be the sort of direct two I'd be hoping for at this point. Two-par, execute. How's the wind looking? It's down here. Light tailwind, very nice. You can see whether you've got a tailwind without having to look at that, of course. You can just see true airspeed 469, ground speed 471. So we've got 2 knots of tailwind. We're going 2 knots faster over the ground than we are through the air. Beautiful, beautiful day over Europe. Wish I had better scenery now. Holding fuel 9.1. Yeah, so that fuel flow calmed right down now. So we've got 1.6 tons an hour. How long have we got left to go? This will tell us legs. It says route. Where would it say? Perth? Is there a Perth page? Progress page. Right, Mahon at 16:34 Z. So that is in 1 hour and 10, maybe 1 hour 15 minutes, and this reckons we'll get there with 5.1. So sensibility check. We're burning 3.2 tons an hour. We've got about 1 hour and 10 to go, but we're going to descend for a chunk of that. So we're going to probably burn another 3, maybe 4 tons, which would leave us landing with, yeah, 5 tons. Yeah, makes sense. Fuel is easy to get wrong, easy to ignore, and it has caused many problems. People just, because the airplane can sail this and be totally wrong. You have to be really careful with the fuel. Paul says, where did drive to become a pilot come from? 320 sim pilot. Always had it. Probably as well started from flying on these when I was younger. That's why I've got a big affinity for the 757. Just look at it. Oh, great. So flying on these, flying as a passenger, getting to see the flight deck in flight. Always a big fan of that. Always a big fan. So that sort of just started off my interest when I was younger, and then moved on to just becoming obsessed, getting hold of Flight Simulator 98, model airplanes, air shows, you name it. It just started to dominate every interest I had, which is a common thing for pilots. People don't accidentally become pilots just because there's not enough demand for people to be pilots, so you have to really want it to end up in it. It's too many restrictions in the way otherwise, and the lifestyle as well is not for everyone. Piano Learner says, did you never fancy military pilot? The medical requirements for military pilot are very high, so I suspected I wouldn't be suitable for it, and then that faded from my ambitions. But you know, if you said to me today, oh yeah, do you want to go fly a Eurofighter? Well, obviously no brainer, but they have even greater demand. I mean, they have even more people who want to fly fast jets in the military. The ratio is even more off. It's very selective, as it should be, really, I suppose. Isaac says, hey Captain, absolutely love your videos. I have a question. Are spoiler speed brakes inhibited during flaps full on the real Airbus A320 NEO? This happens on the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 A320NX. So Isaac, great question. Thanks. I'm glad you like the videos. And yes, at flap full, the speed brakes are inhibited on the A320 NEO. Using speed brakes with flaps out is something you can do. Flap 2, it's very powerful. So flap 2 with speed brakes and idle thrust, the airplane will really drop. But if your flap's full and you're still needing speed brakes, you've probably messed up the approach. Yeah. But I know what if you're trying to stabilize an approach and it's it's not slowing down like you hoped, and you've gone to flat full and it's not slowing down. I can see the appeal of having speed brakes, but the airplane's not designed for it. Too much drag. It's just not a safe sort of situation, I think. Chris Lewis says, Britannia flew on the airline as a kid. Yeah, there you go. Excellent. Me too. Simon C says, I once did raw data holding patterns with the DC-6. Calculated all the wind corrections on the ground though. It was hard enough. Yes, it is. It's tough stuff. So yeah, well done. We should fly the DC-6 again. And I want to fly the 737-200. Yeah, DC-6 I do miss that. That's great. I've done that for ages. I probably hardly remember how to start it up. Christopher says, military pilots with 750 hours flight time. Yeah, so military pilots don't fly much. Their airplanes don't work like commercial. They don't make any money while they're flying around. They just cost money. So they don't fly around all day. As a result, the pilots don't come out with many hours. Yeah, but the hours they have are very intense workload, obviously. You don't have many hours, I imagine, if you, let's say you flew the F-16 something. You probably don't have many hours of sitting in the cruise like this. Mark S, no, sadly I have never taken off or landed at Kai Tak. Danny says, I got the DC-6 with the Buffalo livery after watching previous streams. Took a long time to learn, but it's a great plane and sounds are so good. Agreed. Agreed. There's some add-ons that I just really enjoy flying, and the DC-6 is one of them, and it's absolutely lovely. That's true, you would do if your job was flying a C-130 or C-17. Yeah, so the military pilot, obviously I'm talking about fast jet there. Military pilots flying refueling aircraft, AWACS aircraft and so on, I imagine they'll get plenty of hours. Well, no, I won't say any more about that. Typing Squirrel says, do light aircraft and fighter jets follow the SIDS and stars if they're taking off from a larger airport? I was thinking about the Twin Otter from Glasgow to Barrow. Great question, Typing Squirrel. They can do. The Twin Otter is very slow, but it's also, you know, instrument rated. It can fly on instruments, and it could fly the SIDS and stars. Busier airports. So Glasgow's not actually that busy, so they could probably do either. But what air traffic won't want is, bring up the, yeah. So let's say you're the controller for Cardiff, and this is the departure that everyone's two airplanes want to go to Alvin on their departure, and they both filed IMC, and this is all you've got. So your 757 is lining up, but your Twin Otter's just taken off ahead of it. The Twin Otter's got to go all the way out here. It's going to do it so much slower that you'd have to wait and wait and wait before you could let the 75 take off, because it's going to catch up with it. Now controllers do get around this. They can let the Twin Otter go and then get the 75 away when it's suitable and give it a heading and just take it around like that and do whatever they need. Alternatively, you could get the Twin Otter to make an early left turn, intercept that radial, things like that, or take it on headings. So there are ways around it. But in really big airports, you'll often find different SIDS and stars for propeller airplanes and jet aircraft for this exact reason, to separate them so that they can mix together more easily. So places like Paris and Heathrow and so on. Well, actually, I'm not sure about Heathrow, but there are lots of airports that have different SIDS and stars for slower aircraft. Does Manchester? I feel like Manchester might, because I've often chosen the wrong one. Nah, don't know. We can spend all day looking. There are some that will say prop aircraft only or jet aircraft only. Yeah. I'll never find them now. LEMH. There it is. So scattered 25, 14 degrees. Light 050 wind. So we're going to land on runway. Ooh, good question. Good question. That's runway 01 then. Slightly different to our plan. Listo 23 at Manchester is for prop or small jet only. Jamlin says. Thank you very much, Jamlin. Yeah, perfect. Go on then, as we got time for now. this though? Did I manage to choose the wrong list though? There you go. So, speed profile applies to all aircraft following these SIDs. Jet aircraft have different, there you go, different speed limits for jet aircraft and prop aircraft. Edinburgh has the T6C for props only, and GoSam. Ah, that's right, Edinburgh, yes. I know there is one at Manchester, and I'm sorry that I've been pressing the wrong thing. That must be frustrating. EGBH. Hello. Can we help you? Just general complaining. GoSam. Where does it say it? Because I totally agree, this is a jet only. There it is. Ah, I've been looking in the wrong place. Jet aircraft only. There you go. Whereas the Tala departure, non-jet aircraft or jet aircraft routing via. So there's reasons for it all. This one turns earlier than the equivalent GoSam. See, GoSam goes to the Uniform Whiskey and then heads out further to GoSam, whereas this one gets out to Uniform Whiskey and then makes a left turn, just to get you out of the way. Right, that was a very long answer to that question. Richard Reese says, is there going to be a next group flight? Yeah, there should be, shouldn't there? It's been a while. Was our last one before Christmas? Oh dear. I don't have to think of one. Think of what aircraft we want to use. We did the Hawk last time. That was good fun. That was good fun. That was around... was that Iceland? Oh, we're joined by our first officer well and truly now. She's sat down. So, back to Menorca. So, that puts us on to 01 with quite a strong breeze. Mr. Banana says, could do a group flight with the Toronto. We could indeed. Yeah, we could, couldn't we? We could. Let's do arrival. We're coming in via Sargo. Chances of me clicking on the right one are 0. There we go. Sargo, 4,000 feet, MHN, then a DME arc to Toliss, and then Balio to head in. Small island, Menorca. It's the smallest of the Balearics, I believe. Well, there we go. In ILS from there. ILS Zulu 01 would be the most likely case. 008, 1103 IMH. All looks fine. 1600 feet, so very low platform altitude. That's a threat there. We're not going to fly it procedurally, so we'll probably intercept slightly further out and slightly higher up. But still, so by 4 miles I want to be fully configured basically. Yeah, I want to be fully configured by the time we start down from 1600 really. 3 miles, 1294. It's a 3-degree slope, which is good. Nothing too unusual about that aside from that low platform. Cat C 485, minima 207. So I'm just going to put that in there, 210. Which I think appears there, yeah, DH210. Or we can set it here, not sure which one matters more. Good. How big is this airport? That's my next question. Lots of charts. I'm surprised to have so many charts for such a small, what I thought was a small airport. There it is, pretty tiny. And there's the parking stands. So, runway landing distance available on runway 01, landing beyond the threshold 2,350 metres. The last 200 metres of 01 should not available for takeoff and landing. Right. What does that mean? So is it 2,350 or is it 2,150? Anyway, either way, it's about 2,000, so it's pretty short. We're coming in pretty heavy. We're not far off a pretty reasonable landing weight, so I'm going to go for auto brakes 4. I wonder if they'd ever use 4 on the 75. I need to meet a 75 pilot and ask them that. Fuji2 says, oh dear, flight level 270, both engines shut down, so no flight following to LEMH. Oh dear, Fuji, that's not a good day. Hopefully you get that one solved. Hopefully you get that one solved soon. Ethan Master says 2150 shortly. Yeah, 2150 I imagine then. Yep. Just write that then. Why have they got this note here telling us that this is part of the runway you can't use? I mean, yeah, it's a weird one. It's a weird one. Piano Learner says, why don't aircraft check for fuel leaks? They know the fuel on board and the used fuel is simple calculation, but instead you guys have to do the calculation. Is it to give you something to do in the cruise? Partly that. Also, aircraft fuel system. So the reason I brought it up earlier, my concerns, not concerns, my thoughts on how easy it is to be complacent with the fuel. So, to know how much fuel is on board, the aircraft has a condensing system and all sorts to give us a weight of fuel, because obviously it's a volume. It doesn't just use floats like in a car tank or something like that. Although it does have floats as well. They'll have several different systems. But, you know, the wrong system can be installed. Likewise, the readouts can just be inaccurate or confused. The sensors could fail, or the backup sensors could fail, and not just fail so that the airplane says, oh, they're broken. They could fail and start reading the wrong thing. So what we're doing is we're looking for fuel leaks by comparing these numbers all the time in order to just reassure ourselves that these systems haven't failed, that everything adds up, because if these sums don't work, then we know somewhere along the line something's going wrong. So the classic fuel leak, you know, assuming all the equipment's working, let's say you get a hole in the line, you could find that your fuel used figure and your fuel remaining figure don't add up to what you started with. So it would, let me get this right in my head, it would come to a number, let's say you add up the fuel used and the fuel remaining. Let me get this right. I'm going to confuse myself now if I talk about it too much. But essentially, if they don't add up, it could be because the aircraft has drained more fuel out than it was supposed to. So everything might look fine, but actually there's a leak somewhere. And it can go either way. Alistair Smith says, that looks ugly compared to the 320. Have you flown both as a real life pilot? What do you prefer? Sadly, I've not flown the 757 in real life. Yeah, you could say it looks ugly. I think it looks pretty comfy. Quite a big flight deck as well. Doesn't have a tray table though. Does have a nice sort of storage area though. But yeah, I can see the brown is gone out of favour. They don't do that these days. 787 doesn't have that. 737 and the Max don't have that either. Triple does though. Triple's the last one, I suppose. 777. Secret hello to you. Listerman says fuel used plus fuel remaining equals actual takeoff fuel. Indeed. So if you add those two numbers together and you end up with a number higher than your takeoff fuel, this would suggest a leak. Likewise, a number lower. If there's if there's a discrepancy, that's where you're going to have to start working it out. Piano Learner says the Azores glider was a classic case of why leaving it to the pilot seems like a bad idea. So how could the airplane sense a fuel leak, as it were? That's the question. Because let's say, I think it would come to less. If you've had a leak, you would add up the fuel left in, let's say you took the fuel remaining in one of the tanks, and then you add the fuel that engine has used, and it adds up to less than what you started with. That would suggest fuel is draining out the window somewhere, wouldn't it? But yeah, there's a lot of ways fuel can go wrong. You could have been given, so there's the one where they were given the wrong quantity because it was written in gallons or sort of litres or whatever. That one should really be caught on the ground, you'd hope. But there are other cases where, for example, you have, let's say this is 757-200. They put in, it wasn't on a 757, it was on a different aircraft, I think it was an ATR, and they put in the wrong fuel measurement system into the wing tanks. And it was designed for a different size of that aeroplane, different version. So the result was it just read the wrong fuel the whole time. So the pilot's flying around, putting on fuel and so on, and it was just reading wrong. And the only way to catch it, there's no cautions or anything, was to have done these fuel checks rigorously, and it would have shown up that there was an issue with the fuel somewhere along the line. But it's easy to start to trust these gauges. In general aviation, you don't trust them at all. In general aviation, you see how much fuel you've got on your aeroplane by physically looking into the tanks, and then you work on that, and you can say, well, I've been flying for an hour, so I've burnt this much. Whereas airlines don't work like that, because we can't see into the tanks, obviously. It's a bit more complicated. So we are reliant on the gauges, and therefore have to hold them very accountable and check them very closely. Right, that's my big lecture today on fuel gauges. 777X doesn't have the brand anymore, says Mr. Banana. Interesting. I haven't seen the flight deck of the 777X, but that's the new one with folding wings, which I hope they've thought about very carefully. Very carefully. Danny Adams wants the PMDG 73. Yep. Can't be far away, can it now? Isaac says, how do you make your custom mantle liveries for the Microsoft Flight Simulator 320X? I'm thinking about making my own liveries, not sure how to start. So go join the Discord, Isaac, and there is a livery section where people discuss and put a lot of effort into some beautiful, beautiful liveries. And those liveries were created by some very talented artists in our Discord. I think they used Blender. Spotting TLV says the 757 has great performance on takeoff. Yes, it does. Some of the best performance. So this aeroplane's famous for being overpowered, way more power than it needed. So it's yeah, had unbelievable takeoff performance. So with that fuel check, so we were talking about, I may have misunderstood that message, but if your fuel figures don't add up correctly, so you take your fuel used and the fuel remaining, it doesn't add up, that is purely a system check. We're not actually checking, that's a different check to how we would compare the fuel to what we expect we should need. So in the fuel check, we check that the system's working by checking the fuel burn, fuel used adds up correctly. But that doesn't actually tell us whether we're overburning or underburning on the route. It just tells us that the airplane's numbers are all adding up still. Then we compare that to what we expect to have at that point, and also how much we expect to burn from then to the end of the flight. And if those numbers all add up, they should also match the FMS. But we don't rely on the FMS. That's why I did my little fuel check earlier, where I saw that this said I had 5 tons remaining, but more importantly, in about an hour I should land, so then I can work out myself based on current fuel flow. Excuse me. Based on current fuel flow, how much I would expect to have, and it adds up to about the same, luckily. So where are we now? Still over France. Storming along still. Yeah, lovely. I wonder if you could see the wings. I wouldn't be surprised if you couldn't in the 75. Just about. Just about. Pretty similar to the 320. Oh, didn't know what happened there. Yeah, Aerosoft says, in case of a leak, fuel used plus fuel remaining will be less than the fuel you started with. Richie Ray says, don't trust the gauges. Actually, yeah. So, again, commercial flying, we do trust the gauges. But we have to monitor them to enable that. Listerman says, I'm fairly certain the 777X can stay aloft with wingtips folded up. I hope so. I hope so indeed. Adrian says, comparing flight plan fuel on board to actual fuel on board, what kind of discrepancy would be enough to warrant concern? 500 kilos or more? That's a great question. I think it would depend on the circumstances. If you're doing a 5-hour flight and on the last hour there's a couple of hundred discrepancy, well, that could have been different flight level, different winds and so on. If it's a 1-hour flight, then I'd be more tempted to be concerned. I mean, yeah, it's probably going to depend on the length of flights. What is remarkable to me is the calculations in the flight management system. So this loads in the winds. I don't think we did it on this flight actually, did we? Where does it go in? Oh, anyway, in the 320 forecast, there you go, it has loaded in the winds. Excellent. So in the 320 it loads in the winds and calculates it all, and you can take off and fly for 4 hours, and the little remaining fuel number, so in this one, that 5.2, it won't change. You know, it'll be right to within 100 kilos for the whole flight, and then you'll fly your approach and land to the minute that the computer said for the whole flight. It's remarkably accurate stuff, unless something changes or a traffic reroute you. So it is very good, very good. But we still check it. So yeah, 500 kilos would be concerning. And it's also a trend. If we have a discrepancy at one waypoint of 100 kilos, and then we get to the next waypoint and it's 150, and then the next waypoint is 200, and the next waypoint is 250, then that's concerning. Whereas if we get to a waypoint and it's 200 kilos discrepancy, and the next one is 190, and then it's back to 200, then it's 190, then it's less concerning. Trends in these things as well. Piano Learner says, I had the PMDG 737 for FS 2004. It was so much more complicated than the Airbus A340. The flows are so illogical. You can see the 737 is stuck with the old technology just to keep the type ratings. Indeed. There's a documentary about it as well on Netflix now, isn't there? Ethan's Aviation, good to see you. Ethan says, good to see the flying pencil return. Indeed it is. Thanks for joining us, Ethan. I hope you're doing well. Ethan Master says, will you ever do a video showing how to complete the OFP while in the flight? Not in a real flight. And also, it's a good question. Everyone has different flight plans, so it may or may not be useful. I suppose you could do the most basic. What's this one? What do I use on my streams? I don't know what this one's called. Is this just Lido? So maybe I could talk about this one. Maybe I could. Blue Chip, thank you so much for the £3 super chat. Really appreciate it. Blue Chip says, I can only fly the 320 because of you. Thank you. You're very welcome, Blue Chip. Thank you for coming along, and thank you so much for that very kind donation. Really appreciate it. I hope you're doing very well. And I'm glad the videos have been useful. That's very kind. Very kind indeed. Oh. Right. Huh. That's strange. What have I done wrong there? Mark D says, will you fly the A300 again? Yeah, I hope to fly maybe the Beluga, maybe the A300s. Yeah, I should fly those because they've updated them, haven't they? Was I not in any speed mode? I saw that was blank earlier. Were we flying without any speed mode the whole time? Dear. That's a bit concerning. Yeah, because earlier I pressed on this, and it must have done that and blanked it out. But then what is it following now? I don't. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that this is the most important part of flying the automation of these aircraft is the FMAs. These up here, flight mode enunciators, and yet it is the hardest thing for me to transfer between Airbus and Boeing is the FMAs. They just mean such different things. So it was doing Mach 8.3. So why can't... I thought in VNAV it wouldn't enable speed mode. It would be a VNAV sort of speed. How do I select my own speed then? How can I leave it in VNAV and make it select a speed? Is that not possible? Simon C says, let's not forget the A310 coming to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Who's bringing the A310? Never that one. Flying for Fun says, is that why it achieved 8.3? Yeah, exactly, 8.3. It's doing it again. Strange. You need to push the dial. Aha! Now I can intervene. Right. How do I make it a Mach number? There it is. So we can do 8.2. Let's leave it at 8.2. Get it as quick as possible. Afternoon, the Isaac. Ethan Master says, yeah, just how to complete the standard Lido format OFP would be cool for sim purposes. Give people something to do during the cruise. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I'll think about that. I'll probably have to read through it myself and see if I can work it out. Yeah, Listerman says, I scrolled the stream back. You actually disengaged speed by clicking on the button 38 minutes ago. We did well not to overspeed for that length of time. Shows you how stable the power settings are in the cruise. Blue Chimp says, no, thank you, mate, for all the effort you put into your videos. Makes the sim so much more enjoyable. That's great. Glad to hear it, Blue Chimp. Thank you. Juicy says, at first, great videos and tutorials, thanks a lot. How much fuel should we have in our tanks, for example, in the Airbus A320 when we shut down the engines? Oh, that's a good question. So I did a video on fuel planning. Didn't talk about shutdown. It really depends. What you should arrive at when you park up, if all has gone to plan, you're going to arrive with the following fuel. And again, you must watch my video on fuel planning first, ideally, because I talk about what all these numbers here are. But you're going to have burnt your trip, you'll have burnt your taxi, and that should be about it. So you'll shut down with your alternate fuel, your final reserve fuel, and maybe your contingency fuel all in tanks. So you'll shut down here. In this case, I'm expecting to shut down with 1, 2, 3.2, 4. I'm about 4 tons of fuel. Now that would be if we'd gone with this fuel, but I also added an extra ton of extra, which I'm not looking like I'll need, so that would be 5 tons of fuel. If we look here, that's about right, 5.3. We saved a little bit of fuel on our routing, we cut a few corners. The only difference is you'll actually land, so you'll land with your contingency fuel, your alternate fuel, your final reserve fuel, and any extra fuel, and then you'll burn a couple of 100 kilos taxiing in. Vutu2 says, I think all really well Airbus pilots should be forced to fly Boeing every 6 months, so they never forget how lucky they are. Indeed, yeah. Wouldn't mind that. Alistair says, yeah, easy 8.2 here. Loving that Discord, learning from other people in the community, learning from your vids. Also, really good work. Nice one. Thanks, Alistair. Appreciate it. And yeah, Discord is a great resource and a great place to chat aviation and flight sim. I'm sorry I've been a bit absent from it lately, and also from the channel. I've been struggling to get the YouTube stuff in just the last couple of weeks. So yeah, I do apologise for that. I do intend to be more active than I am being at the moment. Sadly, this is not Cardiff's RB211s. I wish it was. Yeah, I don't have delivery for this one. I'll have to take the Jet 2 one out again because that has those fantastic engines on it. And I quite like the Jet 2 delivery. It's not bad. Not as good as this, but not bad. Right, I'm going to go for a quick break and then we'll be back shortly to set up for the arrival and the descent. Hello, hello. We are back. I hope you're doing well. Hope you enjoy the music. I'm seeing some conversation in the chat, which often comes up, comparing Boeing and Airbus, of course, with the automation. So let's see. Retroslav says some people like it, some don't. I like it because the automation is future, but some people like to click switches more because they miss the workload instead. Hello. First officer's back. So it's interesting. I would say in flight, the automation levels of this airplane versus the Airbus are very similar. Very similar. Same for the 737. My complaints with the 737's overhead, or they're mostly related to the setup. There's a lot of ways to get it wrong in the setup. Of course, someone who flies a 737 would say, no, it's not, just do the procedures, it's not hard. So, you know, it's just different. But there are definitely more things to be done on the 737, testing stall warners, overspeed warners and so on. Things that we don't have to do on the Airbus because they're automated. But I can assure you that that isn't much fun. I don't know many people who enjoy sort of the I know now I know we love cold and dark setups in flight simulator land because we are doing it to appease our interest in the aeroplane and the systems and the satisfaction of getting it working. When you do it day in, day out, a complicated setup is just it's more work and more chance to get something wrong. So the automation side of things on the Airbus, it's just in the setup really. Once you're underway, the big difference is more actually the actual hand flying. Now, it doesn't make much difference if you're flying around with the autopilot all the time, because we're doing exactly here what I'd have done in the Airbus. We've got auto thrust in, we've got LNAV, VNAV, so effectively that would be nav mode in the Airbus, and actually being out to hold. So in a weird way, this is slightly more automated because the VNAV profile, it follows on its own. But anyway, I digress. We set the auto brakes up for landing. We tell it what flap we want to do for landing. We take that from, we can go to here and get the speeds. You know, it's we'll do a flap 30 this time. It's remarkably similar. Because you'll find the same for a lot of airplanes. Once they're in the air, they turn into airplanes. That's about it. The difference is in the way it flies by hand. There's the computers in the background on the Airbus that aren't there on the Boeing, or they weren't there until the MAX came out. Richie Ray says, "Hey Siri, set this aircraft for ILS landing." Yeah, exactly. So this flight deck is largely similar to the Airbus. Hydraulic panel, electrical panel, fuel panel, and they're push buttons. In the Airbus, they've gone for a different philosophy. We don't have this lights. We don't want to see any orange lights just like this. But also, if the system was running fine like that, we would not have any light on. Most things on the Airbus, if they're on, the lights are actually out, fuel pumps and so on, and it just comes on. There's only a light if it's not running, or if it's in the non-normal position. But these are minor differences. But workload in the cruise, we're not balancing fuel and so on any different. I don't know if we would have to. I'm not sure how the fuel balancing would work. That would be automatic on the Airbus with the centre tank. I assume in this one we would run it like that until it was empty and then turn it off, because there doesn't seem to be an auto switch. So that's slightly different perhaps, but these are minor details. But yeah, but what's interesting is when I flew the Dash 8 Q400 turboprop, we used to consider, we didn't care if you flew Boeing or Airbus. We considered all of you to be privileged, lucky, lazy pilots. I say that in total jest, of course, but my point is the Dash was seriously unautomated. That didn't have an autothrottle system. That didn't have a VNAV system that could fly any sort of approach. So if I wanted to fly this airplane down an NDB or a VOR, I can use LNAV VNAV. I can make it do Vorlock or whatever else, and it's capable of auto landing. Dash can't auto land. Even in low vis, the Dash had to land manually. So, that's where the serious differences are. It tends to be the regional aircraft tend to have the actual changes in automation, but Boeing 737, 320, 75, 777, these are all highly automated. They're top of their game in terms of automation. They've got everything, bells and whistles. Ratislav says, to be honest, touchscreens are going to be replacing buttons, and even though I like technology, I'm going to miss the buttons. Yeah, so I haven't seen that. I don't know which aircraft use that yet. I've seen it happen in the car industry, where we have now got a lot. Thanks for that follow, by the way, to Juan. But yeah, we've got a lot of cars coming out with touch-sensitive controls as opposed to physical buttons. But we haven't seen that in aviation yet. And I'm not sure we will. I don't think they would pass. We might. There are probably private aircraft out there right now, business jets or something maybe, that use it. Actual touch screens for entering information I can see working, because we use iPads for EFBs like this. So that's already come in. But what I mean is this stuff up here, I'm not sure that will turn to sort of capacitive touch-sensitive style buttons as opposed to physical ones. Not sure. Maybe they'll find a way to certify it. Private jets have some touchscreen controls for some audio control panels. Yeah, there you go. So it's going to creep in perhaps in some ways, but I wonder if it will creep into the actual automation controls. Maybe. Maybe. Because I'm not a fan of... I don't like the car systems that use touch-sensitive buttons. I don't own one, because they're much newer than what I have, but I have tried some, and I find them more difficult to work out exactly what's going on, which is a common complaint. Confusing and fiddly. Touchscreens are not turbulence proof, says Adrian. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, you need it to be really sure. So you have your lights up here, and then you also have your annunciators here. I don't know if there's a cost advantage for cars, because they make cars with different controls depending on what you've got in your car, but airplanes, this panel doesn't change much. In GA it's already a huge thing with the G3000s, but I think all the autopilot and mode selections are still done by real switches. There you go, Simon C, thanks for that. Yeah, so I suppose we'll see more. The Dreamliner's got lots of long-haul aircraft have the little mouse clicker down here, don't they, where you put your hand and you can control a mouse cursor that goes around the different screens. So, and I think they have an EFB here that's touchscreen as well. But that, again, is not part of the integral flying of the airplane. Is asking, what car do you have? I do not have one with touch-sensitive controls, put it that way. The external engine sounds are super weird. Yeah, I agree. I'm not a fan of the external sounds. I like the internal ones, though. Stuff says, what do you think of no pilot in the cockpit? Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I'm not even sure. I don't think one pilot's going to happen anytime soon either. Not on this style of flight deck with hundreds of commercial passengers. Ooh. I could be proved wrong. I don't think so. It's been talked about for 20, 30, 40 years. Still hasn't got there. Rotofib says, cheers, been quietly enjoying the stream. Can you set up range circles, waypoints in the FMC like the Toliss fly-by-wire Airbus? I've gotten spoiled. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can. I think have we done this before? But whether I know how to do it is going to be another matter. I feel like we've done this. Fix. There we go. Fix. Then we'll put, let's do BGR. Front of us. It's bearing distance ETA. How do I put distance in? There you go. So there's a 060 radial. There's a 60-mile ring. Yep, totally doable. Nice. Thanks for reminding me about that. So let's go to our chart and let's set that up. Let's have the MHN VOR 2,500 feet MSA to a range of 25 miles. So MHN, which is 200 miles away, and we're going to have 25-mile range in slash. Good, that's all we need really. So once we get within that ring, MSA's dropped to 2.5, so we can descend to that. We're going to be 3,000 feet on this arc. Let's go through the plan actually. I think it's that time of day. Oh, I can make it bigger, thank goodness. So we'll go to plan, legs, previous page. There we go. Right. Step. There's the ring. Zoom in. Oh, we haven't put it in. RS01 Zulu via the SAG. What's it called? Sargo. 3 Bravo. Execute. Oof, that's not a great looking picture. Let's hope that does work. But the plan is to fly around the arc, Palio, and in. And if we go around and into the holds. Great stuff. It all works. It's got us. How do you go back on the legs? Palio. Oh, I see. Palio. And then we need to connect that. So I'm just going to remove the discontinuity. Join the dots. So we should be heading in 3,000 feet minimum by Tethys. This has the Tethys at 7.1, so that's good. So nice continuous descent. Down to 2.1 at Balio. And then into the RS. That's CI 1,600 feet, which it's got. So that's all loaded in there. Great stuff. Ratislav says, to be honest, touchscreens are going to be replacing buttons, and even though I like technology, I'm going to miss the buttons. No, I will indeed as well. Yeah. Ed Haslam, I hope you're doing well. Good to see you. Richie Ray says, is using fixed info how a pilot adds a top of descent marker? No, top of descent marker in the Airbus and in this are automatically put. So if I go to map, zoom out, leave the traffic on. Can I help you? First officer's debating leaving. She's not sure what she wants to do. Yeah, so top of descent just sits there. T/D. Goodbye. And she's gone. Just in time for the descent. She'll probably come back and leave again before we actually land. A lot of indecision today. Heading back round. So we're descending in. Oh, there's a lot of information. I think that's 80. So I think that's 80 miles. I can see it here, progress page. To top of descent, 82 miles. There we go. So that's the plan. We've talked about the issue of that low platform, but what's nice is we'll fly over the island. Sadly, I have Orbex's Balearic Island, but it doesn't include Menorca as far as I can tell, which is pretty upsetting. So it's just default scenery until we get to the airport, I'm afraid. But round we go and in for landing. We'll configure appropriately. 8 miles. I'm gonna be a bit slow because it's 757 I'm not familiar with, so I'm pretty sure we've had some unstable approaches in this. So we're going to be by 4 miles fully configured, and I'll be putting the gear out at 6 miles at the latest. Otherwise, it's all pretty straightforward. I don't think we need to do any tuning. Oh, there's where we can tune the VORs. I see PPG and Gaia have tuned. Very good. There's the current winds. Nice. Oh, here's fuel use. There we go. So fuel use 5.6. Fuel remaining 6.4. It also says that there. And it calculates 6.4. So there you go. So this is calculating it. The Airbus doesn't do that. That's very good. So it thinks we should have 6.4 and it reckons we have 6.4. So it's suggesting there's no leak. So there you go. We were talking about that earlier. So the 7.5 does have a system to just tell you. Perhaps because it's designed to fly longer routes. Don't know. Kadeko says, can you give us an idea of the lead up to the start of a day? When do you need to be at the airport? When do you start your briefing? When do you go to the aircraft and start setting up? Great question. Depends on the airline, so I can't be too specific, but I'm going to say most airlines, it's somewhere from an hour to an hour and a half before the actual flight pushes back off stand. So passengers often talk about takeoff time and so on, but the time you see on the ticket, the time the flight departs is the time it's going to push back from the terminal. And then depending where you are, it will obviously change how long it takes to go and take off. So usually an hour to an hour and a half, somewhere in there. Most are nearer to an hour. So not that long really. And that's time to print everything, brief, get yourself to the airplane. So typically airplane somewhere around half an hour to 45 minutes before you get going. Now this is going to be very airline specific, so there's lots of different answers to this. So if you're watching this and you're air crew, then I apologise. But yeah, you have different airports are all set up differently. Sometimes you'll go through security after you meet at the crew room, or sometimes you'll go through security before that, and then you'll meet at the crew room airside, as it were. So there's different ways through it, and then you get to the airplane. But like I say, half an hour to 45 minutes before, that's typically what the crew will need on an airplane to get it ready. And then off you go. So yeah, pretty standard day really. So hour and a bit before you show up at the crew room, and then off you go, get on with the day. Turnarounds between flights can vary. Some airlines, low-cost airlines, will have that down to a fine art of 35 minutes, 40 minutes. Other airlines will use an hour. It just depends how they're set up, whether they're using jet bridges, air stairs, and so on. Same with how many flights you're going to do in a day. Flying for fun says, when was the last time you flew GA? I flew GA not too far ago. Not as a pilot, but as a passenger. But I did enjoy it very much, yeah, a couple of months ago. Oh, we might get vectors instead of flying the DME arc. Excellent. Not a fan of DME arcs, quite wasteful. Carl says, I think I saw, Carl, someone asked this question on my fuel video. They said, in real life, when you do your briefing in the airport and request fuel, how do you know what fuel is left in the aircraft from the previous flight? So that's in the technical log of the aeroplane. So that is recorded, and that is very important information. If we don't know how much fuel was left in the airplane, it's a big problem. Because what happens is, we arrive at the airplane, and the technical log will have it written in it, or on the computer if it's done on the electronically, the fuel that was left in that airplane by the previous crew. And then if the engineers have run the engines or done an APU fuel burn or something like that, then they will write that down, so that and then they'll write down what was left after that, because we have to know how much fuel we start with. Vuti too, thanks so much for the £20 super chat. Really, really appreciate it. That's very generous, Vuti. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for trying to fly along, and thank you for that very kind donation. I hope you're doing very well. Very generous, Vuti. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Yeah, don't know what to say. It's very kind. Very kind. Thank you so much. But yeah, so we have that fuel figure, and then we have to add on the fuel that the fueler gives us. So the fueler will tell us how much fuel they have provided. So they will give us, usually in litres, they don't work in kilograms typically in Europe. We have to convert it. But they will give us a certain amount of litres, and then we will convert that to kilograms at the current temperature and density, and add that on to the fuel we started with, which should then match the fuel figure we have on board. The reason we do that is that if the airplane's fuel gauges aren't working correctly, and this has happened, it is not a possibility, it is a fact that this does happen, this should catch it. Because if the fueler has put in a different amount of fuel, let's say they put in less fuel, and this is what's happened before, where the fuel gauges are overreading. So the plane might have parked up with 6 tons, parked up with 2 tons, and then it's a faulty system, so it's now overreading by 2 tons. So it says it's parked up with 2 tons. Now it says 4 tons when you turn it on the next day because the system's malfunctioning. The fueler comes along. You say you want 6 tons, so the fueler will put on another 2 tons because that's what they will see the gauges say. That's what the gauges will work on. That's how the automated fueling will work. And then the airplane will say, okay, thanks, I've got 6 tons now. And then we put those numbers into our system, and we'll say, right, we've added 2 tons, and what was it left with? I was left with 2 tons, so we've only got 4, so there's a discrepancy of 2 tons. And then we know there's a problem. That can't have possibly made sense to anybody because I explained that terribly. But yeah, anyway, vitally important we know how much fuel is left in the airplane so that we can add up how much fuel we've added and make sure the gauges are correct. That's the simple way to put it. Padby says, is fixed info used for pilots to know how much they're out of airport or specific position? It's used for all sorts. I use it a lot for terrain awareness, so working out the minimum safe altitudes. This one's quite straightforward because it's just blank, but I have a video on it. If you go to 320 Sim Pilot fixed info into YouTube, you'll find it. So Matthew Presley, thank you again to Vucci too, by the way, for the £20 donation, very kind. Matthew Presley says that they shot 45 before. Rastislav says, in real life, do you ask for clearance the same way you would in VATSIM? Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Unless you can do it through the PDC, through the ACARS. Matthew says, we walked up 45 minutes before push, meet on the plane, refuse to set foot in that crew room, print the release. Okay, so that's, yeah, that's very different. I've never been somewhere that lets us do that. 45, yeah, that's good. 45 before push. Yeah. So the airplane wants to descend. It's warning us. The cabin crew complaining.
I suggest turning on the fastened seatbelt sign.
Why? Time for a PA. Let's give him a drink. A quick drink.
Ladies and gentlemen, in a few moments, the flight attendants will be passing around the cabin.
So we're ready then. We've got our descent plans.
Please make sure
We're flying this arrival, which starts at flight 100 at Sargo, which is what we would normally put in. So I'm going to put that in. And I think, being a Boeing, unlike the Airbus, the automation is going to just do it for us, rather shockingly. Ethan Master says, do you miss having to carry your old paper flight bag and carrying all your charts, logbooks, flight plans, performance calculator sheets, etc., or do you think the EFB is a godsend? I know a pilot that does kind of miss it as they have to go to the gym now, like the rest of us. Yeah, no, I absolutely love the EFB. Yeah, especially for charts. With the, I mean, just look at this. Even Avitab is just, it's great. Just all of this accessible. Before, I'd have had to have one booklet. I could only show one of these at a time. Couldn't have them accessible, so I'd have to re-find them or bookmark them, is what I used to do. Or people folded over the pages and then go searching for them, and then you had to file them all away down in the big thing. Or if your airline has enough destinations, you'd have to actually go back to the crew room and start restoring them in there. So no. Electronic tablets are great for that. Checkpoint's back, excellent. Time to make some dinner. Yeah, I'm getting hungry, I must say. I did, by the way, those of you who watched last time, we were flying, my last stream was Pancake Tuesday in the UK, where everybody eats pancakes for some reason. And I got a couple of very kind donations saying, use this to go and get some pancakes, or Deliveroo. I don't know if you all know what Deliveroo is, or Uber Eats, just like home delivery of some pancakes. So I did indeed do that. I got some American style pancakes with strawberry and syrup, which are very nice. So thank you to those. The Isaac says, have you got a favourite airport approach to fly? I've got some that I like, but I like airports for different reasons probably to what you're expecting. Oh, there we go. So start down. Let's just put it to VNAV speed then. Idle VNAV speed. Let's let it do its thing. And it already wants drag required. Oh well. It's not going to get it. Yeah, it reckons we're 1,500 feet high. Is that because it was based on the highest speed then? Interesting. But some nice approaches. Bilbao is nice. Ibiza, I like. The view into Ibiza is lovely as you come over the bay. Nice as well has its perks, although it's can be a bit challenging depending, and a very busy airport. Then I've got some in Norway I've talked about before that I really like. Alesund's very pretty. Very pretty. Athens is a very nice airport to fly into. Great view of the city. Yeah, there's quite a lot of nice ones out there.
So, why don't you turn on the fastened seatbelt sign?
I'm not going to take instructions from them on that.
Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has turned off the fastened seatbelts.
No, don't get me wrong. In real life, if the crew wanted the seatbelts on, there'll be a reason. Probably turbulence. And I'm assuming that's why he's suggesting it. But I'm not 100% sure. Ah, yes, landing elevation. We must set that up. What's this airport's? It looks sea level-ish. I like 300 feet. There you go. I'm wrong. A bit late. I should have done this earlier. Wow, so that would make sense then, because at 1,600 feet on the ILS, you're only 1,300 feet above the runway at 4 miles. Goodness me. It's the first officer meow flying with you. No, first officer left, but they might come back in time. Ranger says, are AFBs assigned to the individual pilots or left on the planes? Great question. Depends on the airline. Depends on the airline. So that's a variable. Out of interest, Matthew Presley, what do you do with yours? Do you keep your EFB? You don't have to say. Matthew says, Jet now gives us the NOTAMs on each chart, which is such a huge improvement. Still have them on the release as a backup, but the chart is so much easier. Ah, that is good. Yeah, that is a good idea. Speed VNF path. Interesting. So it's recapturing. Let's give them a descent PA.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we start our descent, please make sure your seat backs and tray tables are in their flap.
And I'm going to get the weather. 1016 QNH, so I'm going to set that on the standby altimeter ready for later. Do I need to enter anything in here? Aha!
Until we are safely parked at the gate. We hope that you found our flight enjoyable. We would like to remind you that cushions and blankets are to be left in your seats. Thank you.
Right, let's get this right. Getting so used to not talking to anyone. Where are we going? Verso descending to 100s. Control, good afternoon. Britannia 306 descending, flight level 100 to Verso.
Britannia 306, Barcelona Control, we went at Squawk 6203.
Squawk 6203, Britannia 306.
Room 8484 on discretion, you can fly direct Balio.
I've totally forgotten to do the transponder on this.
Direct Balio, Nostrum 854.
So that should be there. And yeah, 6203. More complaints in the cabin. You can see how the workload ramps up as soon as you add air traffic and cabin crew.
Turning on the fastened seatbelt sign.
No, not interested. Thank you very much. Start a descent.
We would like to remind you that use of all electronic devices during descent and landing
Okay.
is prohibited as it may interfere with the navigation requirements.
Indeed, Ed did get panked in the end, so thanks so much. And Arjun says you're welcome with that one. Thanks, Arjun. Yeah, it was great. Really enjoyed them.
Hello.
Arjun's baking pancakes today.
5755 Barcelona, we went at Squawk 6212. Can you repeat that, please? Squawk what?
Lucas says, if you activate the engine anti-fire fire extinguisher, even if there's no fire, can you restart the engine? No. Once you've done the fire extinguisher, no. You cannot restart the engine. It's going to contaminate it and fill it with foam, specifically designed to stop a fire, which is what we need for the engine to work. So yeah. Lucas says, how about another Corfu stream from mainland Europe? Ah, yeah, we could go back to Corfu. Or Rhodes, great approach. Yeah, could do. Good idea.
Britannia 306 identified. You can expect Sargo 3 Bravo arrival at Menorca runway 01, descent flight level 150.
Descend flight level 150, expecting the Sargo 3 Bravo for 01. Britannia 306.
143, flight direct Mike Julie.
It is. Sorry, Matthew. Matthew says, we keep ours and actually own our iPads. The company pays us monthly allowance so it can afford a new one every year. Have my current one for 5 years now, so extra money in the bank. There you go. Thanks, Matthew. Interesting. Yeah, that's different. Even different to what I've ever heard of. It's quite a good system. Lauren B, no, we're not there, but we are getting close. We're in the last stage. Just going to fly the arrival. We don't need to put the weather in anywhere. So what we are going to do is run the descent. So presentation's done, recall checked, auto brake set, land data VREF. I want 30, 129. I'm going to add 5. It should actually be 128 by now. Airbus is better. It calculates this based on your actual weight at the time. Sorry, estimated weight, not your actual weight at the time. So anyway, 128 plus 5. 133, which I don't think I can set.
755 identified. You can fly direct to Jerome and climb flight level 3.
I will set it up here.
133.
Cool.
Going direct
Yeah, we're doing a full flap landing. I don't think there's anything I need to do to tell it that, because we've told it in here. I think that's all it takes. I feel like we've probably forgotten something else, but we shall see. So veer off is done, approach briefing complete. Next to the approach checklists. So we're not too far from the airport now, 62 miles, but it's we've got to fly that around that whole arrival, sadly. Yeah, Isaac says, be careful not to aggravate the purser too much. I've heard he's a little short-term. He is indeed. Isaac says, would love to see a Corfu stream. We'll be visiting this year, COVID permitting. Excellent. Enjoy Corfu. I absolutely love it. One of my favourite places. And we did actually stream there a while back, but I should do it again. Why not? I think we took Dan Air 320 NEO livery there. Harry says, last flight I was on, the PTU barking noise would not stop until the gear was up after takeoff. When we came back into land, as soon as the gear was down, it went off again. Yeah, that's unusual, Harry. I'm not sure why. I can't explain that one. I wouldn't expect the PTU to be running.
Run 143, descend flight level 70.
Ratislav says, do you have to think about your comms with ATC, or does it become second nature? It's second nature in real life. It's not so easy flying here because I have to fly using all the different...
306, descend flight level 90.
Descend flight level 90, Britannia 306. Yeah, I just have to get used to different call signs, different parts of the world that should be flying in. 090. Wide Womble, good to see you. Wide Womble says, putting the fast seatbelt on auto shuts him up. I see he wants it on auto. Well, I wouldn't turn them on yet, so he's not getting them. One more PA. I think I'll turn on the belts and then do the before landing. I think that's what we'll do. On short haul, we don't need that many PAs. Maybe on the long haul. Oh, love it, love it, love it, love it. This is what these planes are best at. It's such a shame. America has loads of them still. We just don't have them in Europe anymore. Such a shame.
Kilo Whisky, Barcelona, muy buena. Suba a nivel 100 y responda 6207. Nivel 100, responda 6207, 4 Kilo Whisky.
Richie Rose says, can I still do in-flight shopping when the plane is doing descent? I don't see why not.
143, it is in altitude 5,000 feet. QNH at Palma.
Vuta2 says, flew from Berlin to Corfu, I remember that. Yeah, that's right. Well remembered, Vuta2. Yeah, we did. We went to Corfu from Berlin because Dan Air had a base there. Takeoff, which is now closed. Flight time for Corfu is worth having a look if you choose to visit, says Isaac. Thanks very much. Corfu is an interesting approach. Oh, here we go. First officer is back. I knew she wouldn't be able to resist. Just in time to be in the way for the rudder. Yes. Eden's Aviation says, just Jet 2 for this year and no more 75s for UK airlines. Yeah, so Jet 2 still have them, do they? As Thompson got rid of all theirs. Such a shame. I'm still surprised Thompson did that, but they seem to... Thompson flew 757s on this sort of route in the Canary Islands and busy holiday routes, the Greek Islands and so on, because this is a great plane for that. It's got the performance to get in and out of some really small airports. But what they seem to be doing now is they use a 7.3 a lot of the time, and then for the really busy routes in summer, like the Greek Islands and so on, they'll send the 787, which can fit, I assume, even more people than this, because it is a wide body, of course. So they send their 787s, and I suppose it's probably not... Yeah, it probably burns a similar amount of fuel to this thing. I'm not sure what the 7 fuel burn is, but it's not much. And I imagine it's got similar performance because it's quite an efficient airplane, efficient wings and so on, so probably not too hard to land it there. But still, I still like the 7.5. Yeah, I agree, the Isaac, yep. Kadeko would like recommendations for good aircraft models, particularly airliners. How do you mean, Kadeko? What sort of model? Scott's going to use it for leg 3 of the Blue F1 Tour.
4 kilo whiskey, puede volar directo.
Lauren Beats there, it's 2 787s are pretty densely configured. Definitely more passengers. That's true, yeah. That's a good point. They'll have high configuration options. Right, let's zoom in. I assume you're just expecting us to follow the road. 7 flight level 70, Britannia 306. Excellent, it's all working out. 70. So landing this airplane, short runway today, so that's the excuse for the landing rate. We are limited on the runway more than we are the smoothness. And as I remember, we need to take out the auto thrust at the same time. Now, I don't remember if I have a button signed for that. Yes, I do.
Confirm bowling, runway 143, altitude 3,000 feet.
Flight level 3,000 feet, runway 143.
Okay, that's good. So I've got it signed. What I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to preset my throttle somewhere sensible. There we go, speed mode. Good, right. So, flight director's off, which I've got assigned. Auto thrust off. Try not to change anything, and if we do, we have to retrim. Right, there we go. They can have it before landing.
500 feet, and you can turn right heading north.
Turn right heading north, flight level 25.
10,000 feet, lights going on. Gonna head over the islands, back round and land in. Lovely.
143, if possible, reduce speed 180 knots.
180 knots.
Future says very off-putting when the language is both Spanish and English. Yeah, but there's a lot of parts of Europe do that. France in particular, you'll notice speaking in French.
143, continue turning right.
It can, you know, it obviously it does remove some situational awareness for the pilots who don't speak French, because it means that you can't be sure what that other crew are talking about, or where they are, or what they're going to do next. Okay, yeah, again, it's doing a level deceleration, very strange. Oh, well. About to start our DME arc at 13 miles, we're at 19 at the moment. This is the best way to fly an arc. It does the computer can do it better than we can, because it can just do one continuous bank engine. Listeman says, only solution, learn all languages. Exactly. I haven't heard that, Lauren B. I haven't heard that one. Interesting. Yeah. I haven't noticed, I suppose. Matthew says, Mexico and Quebec do it. After enough flights, I found myself actually understanding the instructions much. Yeah, that's true. You do get an idea. You can get an idea, but it does take a bit more concentration. Turi will be getting the 757 MAX 10 at some point to replace it. Boeing needs to make 757X, Ethan's Aviation says. Yeah, I agree, they do. I think it'd be great. Kodeko says, sorry, I meant like if I wanted a 320 NEO model to sit on my desk or something. Where's the best place to buy them? Oh, there's lots of places. Depends on the scale you want. So there's, I have some 1 to 400 scale models, which I've then got the 1 to 200 are more expensive and bigger, and they're made by NG models. They make some 757s, Gemini jets, but a 1 to 400 model of a 320 NEO is quite a small model. So the 1 to 200 is a nicer model to have sort of on your desk. 1 to 400 is a very small scale. But there's a few, yeah. Aviation Retail Direct, I think, is one. There's, I'm not paid by any of these, by the way. There's Aircraft Model Store UK. There's yeah, those two are quite good. eBay has a lot. And model aircraft are often out of, like they make a few and they go out of production, so you have to, depending if you want a specific livery, you might find that they're only available on eBay.
Britannia 306, descend altitude 5,000 feet, Menorca QNH 1016.
Descend 5,000 feet, QNH 1016, Britannia 306. Yeah, I agree, Lauren. Yeah, so 1 to 400 is a small scale. That's what a lot of my models are. But then I've got
306, fly on heading of 190 degrees. Expect vectors ILS Yankee runway 01.
heading 190 degrees, vectors for ILS Yankee 01, Britannia 306.
Pinhead 306, that's correct. Reduce speed 220 knots.
220 knots, Britannia 306. Okay. My model aeroplane discussion is going to have to grind to a halt here as I try and do all of that. So heading 190 is there. We're going to 5,000 feet, but I need to set the QNH. 1016 and send that across. We've done the seatbelts. 190, and he wants a speed, so I'm going to intervene to 20 knots and speed. But it's trying to do VNAV speed, so I don't know how to override that. If I do flight level change, 220 knots. There it is. We can do that clean, which is good. I don't know why it's going to thrust hold. I assume it's just holding idle for now. Okay, so we've got thrust hold, speed, which is fine. So it's the sending in speed mode and holding thrust at idle. Then we've got heading select of 190 and command. Next, I need to change the arrival. So this is what you'd get the other pilot to do. You wouldn't do this yourself because you're going to be focusing on the flying. But all it's done is change to the Yankee execute. Discontinuity LNAV. Yep, that's fine. I will do a direct later on when we get the heading. Okay. Now I want to check that the ILS is tuned, which it hasn't. That's something I've totally forgotten to do. So let's bring up the ILS Yankee charts. What's different? It's straight in via patio, so that makes more sense actually. It connects slightly better. So that's fine. Not going to stress too much about that sequencing. But what I am going to do is tune it. 008103. I thought this was automatic. Obviously not. There we go. ILS is tuned, and there's the scales. So this is an idle descent, 5,000 feet, and we're pointing out 12.7 miles from the VOR. Descend 3,000 feet, Britannia 306. Okay, so this is back under control, down to 3,000 feet. The VOR is roughly on the airfield, so that's a useful DME for us to read. So 13 miles downwind, 6,600 feet. That's not a bad place at 220 knots. I wouldn't want to be any higher or faster, but no problem being here now. You'd be very disappointed having flown all the way here and then you see the clouds for the first time after 2.5 hours of just sunny skies. One to 200 is a nice big size for display case. 1 to 400 is nice for desks. There you go, Adrian Burke says. Yep, good point. Because 1 to 400, they are small, especially a 320. Like I've got 1 to 400 757, sorry, and they're pretty small, but they are very nice models. NG makes some really nice ones. I've got a Britannia livery one on my desk right now, actually, along with an Air 2000, which was made by Gemini in the tapestry livery. Right, temperature. Where's the temperature displayed? 11 degrees. We don't need any ice. Now, in real life, if you enter a cloud at plus 11, it's going to drop 2 degrees when you go into the cloud, because the cloud will naturally be cooler, hence the water has condensed and made a cloud. So, just for practice, I've put the engine anti-ice on. I think the 747, it was automatic. Pretty sure I've heard that. Right, can we do like a extended center line? Or is that
Britannia 306, left heading 140 degrees.
Left heading 140 degrees, Britannia 306. 140. 5,000 feet now. Descending to 3,000, which is above the MSA, and we are within our safe area. 4,000 feet, 16 miles out. We're low on profile now. 540 feet low agrees with that, so I'm going to change the vertical speed and just shadow it off. 500 feet per minute. Speed, vertical speed. Ethan says, what do you prefer, Gemini or NG models? I really like NG's 757. I think their 757 is my favourite. The Gemini one is just not as detailed. It's an older one. They haven't made a tapestry livery Air 2000 for a long time.
Your stand will be amended. It's stand 44 taxi via...
I also have an NG A350, which is excellent. Really, really nice. Direct to fix the intercourse is accuracy. Thank you very much. intercept course. So do I just put in 008? Yes, I do. Thank you very much, Matthew. Excellent. There it is. Just comforts me as an Airbus pilot to see that. If any of you saw my recent video, I did a little video with DCS and the Miss Molly F14A Tomcats. That's a 1-2... Oh, goodbye. First officer's leaving. Yeah, I told you she'd manage one more intervention. That is 1-72. And that's a big model. They are seriously detailed. Mr. Banana says, I have a 1-200 A380 on a shelf and it's made me appreciate how massive it is. Yeah, 1-200, 350s, 380s, 787s, they're big models. Isaac says, I do like 1-400 models for shelf displays. Got some 350s and 74s which are perfect in that scale. Yep, 350 looks great in that scale. Now he's taking us a long way out, 17 miles. I don't want to be 17 miles out. I'm ready to intercept.
Can I leave my cockpit for like 5 minutes? 0.755, no problem. Actually, you can monitor.
There you go. So our 5.3 prediction is going to reduce now because this is extra miles. So this is going to overburn. We're probably, I mean, 5 tons maybe landing at this point. Maybe not. Maybe not 300 kilos. Depends how badly I drag in the approach. Matteo Chewy, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us. It's an unusual time today, but thanks for coming along. Right, we're levelling off. But he's taking us way out. We're now 19 miles from the airfield. I don't want to interfere with his plan, so I won't say anything. But yeah, we're not going to manage a continuous descent as a result. Kadeko says, think I'll check out a few NG models then. Thanks. You're welcome, Kadeko. I don't think NG do A320s at the moment, though. I use them for this. I've got their 75 and their 350, but I haven't seen their 320s. I think only Gemini do 320s. But I could be corrected on that. Maybe Phoenix. Phoenix do 320s as well. Phoenix models. Kai, good to see you. You've joined at just the right time. Lauren B says, in the US, if it wasn't so cloudy, I'd just call the field and get cleared for a visual. Yeah, indeed. As long as you'd briefed it, you could brief a visual into somewhere like this. It's quite a relaxed place. And Britannia 306, we are ready for final.
Apology, Britannia 306, because we lost the program crashed. So turn left on heading 030 degrees, final vector, clear Dallas, Yankee runway 01.
No problem, thanks. Left heading 030 degrees. Cleared for the ILS Yankee 01, Britannia 306. It happens. It happens to all of us. So let's zoom in. We're turning in 3,000 feet at 21 miles. We are successfully below profile. I'm going to wait till we're pointing towards the airfield and then I'm going to arm the approach. I have to do that in the Airbus as well, believe it or not. But there we go. Arm approach, glide slope and lock white. So I'm going to keep 220 knots. It's easier to slow down level, obviously, than it is to slow down in a descent. So we can actually keep 220 knots to quite close in this case. Thanks for the follow to Mike. Right, now, where is the ILS DME? Can somebody please help me with this? It's not that, because that's to the next waypoint. Do I have to go to the ILS approach to see it? There you go, 18.8. Is that the only way to see it? It seems crazy to me that you have to do that. In the Airbus we fly the approach in map mode. Pretty much. NG makes 320. Did they really? I didn't know that. Is that new, Ethan? I built up a small collection over a larger period of time, and I haven't sort of checked back in. Lock is captured, which is good. I'm hoping to see it turn left shortly. Mark Rain says standby instruments to the left. So that's the, but that's the DME. That 16.5 is, I'm assuming, the VOR DME. This. But so I don't know how to see the ILS DME unless I go to the ILS approach page, which I suppose maybe that's what pilots would use. Piano Learner says, money is no object. What private jet would you have? I'd go for an A318. I'd not want anything bigger, as I'd want to get into smaller fields compared to the big boys who have 787. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, A318. I mean, I'd probably go smaller than that because I'd want to get into everywhere. So would a Gulfstream or one of the top end Citations, wouldn't they get into a smaller airfield than a 318? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. The other problem with an A318 is, I suppose a private jet version would have its own stairs, wouldn't it? Nice big cabin. No, that'd be pretty good, pretty comfortable. Doesn't go as high or fast either. I'd probably want one of the business jets that goes ridiculously fast. Right, 12 miles, 220 knots. So this is about where I'd want to slow down. But because we're level until 9 miles, you know, we're not. We are just about okay to go a little bit longer. But given what I said earlier about not being familiar with this airplane, I think it's best we do start slowing down now. So let's go to flaps 1. Flaps 5. Where now? 9.9. Is that the same? Ethan says only A321s. I didn't know they made A321s either, to be honest. I'd have to take a look at that. I don't know if those are new. Maybe I wasn't paying attention when I last looked. Looking mostly for 7.5s. That's our Falcon 9X, says Ranger Rick. There you go. That does look nice. 180 knots, 8 miles. No, keep slowing down, please. 160. We're going for a VAP of 133. Next stage of flap. There's the light slope.
06, surface wind 060 degrees, 15 knots, QNH 1016. Runway 01, you're cleared to land.
Cleared to land, 01, Britannia 306, thank you. Right, something I must do. Which I forgot to do.
4 kilo whiskey, vole director, robot, descenso nivel 100.
2,000 feet, then turn right, direct to VOR, climbing to 2,500. I'm not going to think too hard about that right now. I'll leave it, put it at 2 when able. So, VAP. Let's put it in now of 133. Radats alive, 2,300, which matches as we're over the sea. Bit of turbulence now, it is a little bit breezy. Oof, look at it rocking around. Seeing a bit of wake vortex off those wings. Sorry, bit of the the flaps. I love that effect X-Plane does. 150 knots. We're going for full flap landing, which makes this quite a simple process. We're in speed mode still, so that's good. So gear down. Next stage of flap. Going to flaps 20. There's those vortices. That's a great effect. Really nice. Look at that. Full flap. Awesome. This is one of the things that X-Plane does really well. That's great. When all that humidity is in the air and you're just sort of squeezing it out with the airplane. Right. Landing checklist. Done at that and that. Landing, cabin, secured, speed brake. Oh, we need to arm the speed brake. There is a code for that. Is it? No, it's not that. No, it's not that. Does anyone remember how to arm the speed brake? I don't. Next to shutdown. There is a code. I've totally forgotten what it is. Look at that aeroplane. That's a lot of turbulence too. Anyway, they will deploy when I put reverser out. Stable. It is turbulent. And 3. Thank you very much. I knew it was one of those numbers. Right, let's see if we can manage this. I think we made the excuses earlier, although I would like to have added the weather, but it's too late for that now, so we'll just go with the short runway. It is rocking and rolling. So this is where ground speed menu is useful, which sadly this airplane doesn't have, so you can see the RPMs revving up and down around 50%-ish. Let's turn off the auto thrust. Getting a bit slow there. Autopilot off. Oh, no, not that. Flight director's off. Oh dear. A little bit slow there. Right, power back where we need it. A little bit high now.
50, 40.
Portugal 1304 Barcelona.
Idle.
Afternoon, buenas tardes, go ahead.
Touchdown. Reverses. We made it down. That airplane, there's so many things to do in the final stages. Love it. Right, 80 knots. Idle reverse. Runway's a bit longer than we previously thought. Clapping from the crowd. Not so bad. Manual brakes. Love it. I absolutely love this add-on. It feels great. Oh, there's the twisty stick causing problems. But yeah, we definitely got slow there on approach. Debate whether that would have counted as stable in real life. I suspect not. But I'm going to put that down to the complete lack of control over the thrust levers we get compared to actually feeling where they are. Even made the exit, look at that. No, love it. So this is Windsock Simulations Aerosoft's Menorca, so thank you to them for sending it over. Look at that, proper terminal, even labelled. Love it. Just can't believe the weather. What bad luck. Location of the runway, let's get the white strobe lights off, the landing lights off. We will of course be looking at the replay soon. Runway turn-offs on. Let's bring the flaps up, speed brakes in. Oh, and let's figure out, I'm assuming we're going straight ahead into the apron. Yeah, let's do that. And we're going to get the APU up and running. Shutdown checks are next. Let's do after landing. Thank you for those follows. So I think we did it right on that landing in the end. It's a little bit unstable on the final, but we sorted that out. 168 feet per minute, says Adrian. There we go, not too bad. So yeah, it's a nice airplane to land, and it's a great add-on. This one, it just when you have it in the air, it really feels like it's in the air. You know, it just works very nice. I don't know what else we would turn off at this point. Seems reasonable. I'm going to park stand 11. So let's turn off lights. APU's up and running. Planes and Dre says, hey there fellow pilot, are you doing a second leg? Sadly not, no. We're just going to park up now and we'll look at the replay. That'll be us for today. Anyway, nice to have control, nice to have VATSIM working again. And APU gen off, aha, so let's put the APU gen on, turn off the auto brake. Somewhere there, yes. Oh, it's even showing us. Oh, let's try and get it right. Proper scenery this. Although I'm not convinced we need to go left. I think we were about in the right place there. I think we should be a little bit right. I'm going to cheat. Let's get it back over there. There we go. Right, parking brake is on. He says. And it's not too far. I don't think we are. So, engine lights off. Should have done that earlier. Sad days, planes and raids. Hopefully you had a great stream. Sorry for joining. No problem at all. Hope you enjoyed the bits you saw. Daryl says, thank you for your videos, taught me so much. Thanks to you, I flew the 322 NX on VATSIM. Excellent. Well done, Daryl. Glad to hear it. Thanks for coming along to say so. Okay, so That's up and running. We've got the generator on. Let's see if we can turn it off.
Britannia 306 Barcelona.
Go ahead, Britannia 306.
Britannia 306, taxi stand 14, welcome to Menorca.
Thank you very much, and thanks for controlling Britannia 306. Good. Oh, here we go.
Victor Quebec, Bravo Golf Papa.
Right, let's disconnect before
210.
he realises we aren't in the right place. But that's very nice of them to control us. And yeah, has this worked? I'm just going to do this as a test. It's worked. We managed shutdown checks, so electric pumps would come off, fuel pumps off, which we do have to do on the Airbus. Flaps up, parking brake set, fuel cut off, weather radar off, shutdown complete. Excellent. So thank you all for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for all the great questions and chat. Oh yeah, we can turn off the beacon. I've absolutely loved flying the 757, and it's been great to chat about aeroplanes with you as always. Let's go take a look at the replay. Oh, but before we do that, let's enjoy actual jetway parking up. See proper scenery. As I said, Windsock Simulations, Aerosoft scenery. They've done a great job with it as ever. Yes. First officer complaining that she's missed the landing. Thanks, Ed. Thanks for joining us. And Booty, thanks very much for your donation as well. Really appreciate it. Weather in X-Plane 12 is looking good. Have you had a look? Yeah, X-Plane 12 does look good. So I am excited about that. I think they have a good thing here with this simulator. So I'll be pleased to see. You're right. What are you doing? Okay. Sorry about that. The first officer causing a scene. Good, look at that. Jet bridge and everything. Excellent. Right, jumping into the replay. Let's go see what happens. So, yes, we hear you. Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, Jaroslav. Glad you enjoyed it. Thanks all for coming along, as ever. So here's the configuring. So this is a problem with flying this airplane, not often enough. So I took the auto thrust out, but didn't have enough power on. So that's where it really unraveled. Reference power was in the wrong amount. So let's see what it... I mean, we had to go up to 60 in the end, but anyway. So that's why we got a bit low on that glide slope. Too busy focusing on that. So what happened was I took out the auto thrust and then took out the autopilot, but I'd not put enough thrust on initially. So of course the airplane's going to sink because it's not in trim anymore, and you've lost some of that nose up power from the engines. So it's totally out of trim and it's slow, so it just sinks, which is what it would do naturally. And I was too busy trying to fiddle around with all the buttons, trying to turn off the flight directors and so on. I think next time what I would do is not bother turning off the flight directors. I don't know why I decided to do that. It's not something you needed to do, I don't think, on this landing. There we go. Anyway, we corrected it, added a lot of power, so that's the risk of getting slow. You know, yes, you can fix it, but you've now destabilized yourself. So the next thing that's going to happen is I've added loads of power. We're going to shoot back through and get high, which is what happened. So we're about here, and we were high. So this is why it's not a great idea to start fiddling too much with approaches that can't be saved, even if you only need to do, say you're just a bit low. Okay, I'll go back to it, but there is a risk that this can happen. Now, we weren't outrageously high. Crossing the threshold, we should be 50 feet. We crossed it at 60 feet, so that is high. Actually, what are we here? 53 feet on the rad out. So yeah, we'd sort of sorted it out. Vertical speed, 700 feet per minute. Yeah, pretty reasonable.
40.
Into the flare. Nice. It's just a nice airplane to land. Those bogies really soak it up. I really like them. I wish I flew an airplane that had them kicking off the drift, settling onto them. Love it. Yeah, beautiful stuff. And not my landing into the airplane. It's yeah, quite a strong wind today. Didn't quite get all the drift off, but probably just enough for that to feel all right from the cabin. Let's do the most important view, the spotter's view. go. See you, Listerman. Thanks for coming along. Love it. Right, enough of that. It's time to jump back to the replay. Now, I don't remember where that would be on here. Somewhere here, I reckon. Okay, so we're going to go for, I think, this wing view. Matteo Joey, thanks again for coming along, and yeah, enjoy it later. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you're doing very well. Good to see you here again. And what I'm going to say is, of course, thank you all so much for coming along today. Thanks for chatting. Thanks for the very kind donations. Thanks to the moderators for taking the time to do that. And thanks for everyone who just watched along, chatted, joined us on Twitch and YouTube. There will be more live streams coming. I know this has been a bit of a quiet period, or quieter period, but there will be more streams, more videos to come. And yeah, I'll be hopefully getting a bit more regular with the streams again. It's been quite hard to fit them in just the last few weeks, as I said. But yeah, so thank you so much for taking the time to come along and your patience. And yeah, really appreciate it. And thanks again for those very kind donations. Right, I think all that's left to say then is we'll see you next time. Enjoy the replay. Enjoy the outro music. Thanks again. Bye-bye.